In the midst of bustling daily life, Seongwu steps off a jam-packed bus, visibly worn out from the trip. This tough daily commute from his home is a routine for him. Hanho, his buddy, teases him, pointing out how Seongwu endured rigorous military service as a Special Forces Reserve sergeant, but now struggles with a mere 2-hour bus journey. Not one to back down, Seongwu playfully jabs back, reminding Hanho that he skipped his military service for a girl named Miam. This comment instantly silences Hanho. As they walk to class, Seongwu, noticing the quiet, asks Hanho if he's upset. Instead of answering, Hanho points towards the sky above the library building, claiming he saw a message that read, "Downloading monsters." It vanished once it hit 100%. Assuming Hanho is distracted due to past heartbreak and his video game habits, Seongwu advises him to get back to reality. They part ways, heading to their individual classes. During a lecture, Seongwu begins to feel a wave of dizziness, struggling to stay focused. Out of the blue, a blackout hits, and a mysterious system message appears before the class. Choose a class for the apocalypse. A 15-second countdown starts, and various skill cards, each adorned with stars, appear before the students. As panic sets in, some students advise against selecting a card due to the potential danger. Others fear the consequences of not choosing before time runs out. Seongwu, attempting to grab a 2-star warrior card, is thwarted when another student, Minsu, beats him to it. Minsu's prize? A gleaming sword in hand. In a rush, Seongwu picks a card with 5 stars, revealing he's now a necromancer. Only Seongwu and Minsu have made selections. Minsu, though armed, is bewildered by his new sword. Chaos reigns when a student bursts into the classroom, with a small goblin-like creature clinging to him, relentlessly stabbing him. The room watches in horror as the creature coldly finishes off the student. Panic engulfs the class, and many look to Minsu for help, given his new weapon. Yet, Minsu freezes in fear. Seongwu knows he can't rely on Minsu. When the goblin lunges at him, Seongwu reflexively kicks it, realizing it's surprisingly light. Seizing a nearby chair, he crushes the goblin's head, ending its rampage. For his efforts, the system rewards him with 10 gold coins. Grasping the changed reality quicker than most, Seongwu understands they're now in a game-like world. Another system alert informs him of his ability to resurrect the dead. When he reanimates the goblin he defeated, the classroom witnesses his newfound power as a necromancer. The calm is short-lived as 2 more goblins barge in. Seongwu's skeletal minion battles them, but it's evident he needs assistance. When he requests Minsu's sword, the terrified boy declines. Seongwu improvises, hurling another chair, providing the opening his undead ally needs to vanquish both goblins. Seongwu's reward? Another 20 gold coins. The fight concludes, and Seongwu learns he's maxed out his minion count. The classmates, trying to grasp the situation, share that similar chaos reigns across the campus, evident from distant screams. But the real shock comes when Seongwu peeks outside. The entire city is ablaze. Some students, hoping to survive, suggest leaving the campus. As they navigate the corridors, more goblins pursue them, yet Seongwu's skeletal warriors keep them at bay, allowing the rest to flee. Seongwu, amidst the madness, realizes that in this new game world, defeating foes like the goblins helps him grow stronger. In the midst of all the chaos, one of Seongwu's undead skeletons meets its end, its skull soaring through the air and landing near him. Yet fortune seems to favor him as the goblins, weary from battle, fall to his remaining 2 skeletons, netting him another 20 gold and a level up. Now at level 2, Seongwu's screen flashes with a new status window and 5 skill cards for his picking. Without hesitation, he opts for the one that boosts his skeleton limit by 1. With this upgrade, he can now command 4 skeletons simultaneously, but doing so has nearly drained his mana. Peering out a window, the world outside the campus looks even more dire than the nightmare unfolding inside. As he makes his way downstairs, accompanied by his bony brigade, Hanho, clearly alarmed, takes a stab at one of them. It's only when he spots Seongwu that relief washes over him. Seongwu quickly assures him, "These are mine. It's my skill." Curious, someone pipes up, "Hey Hanho, what class did you get?" Hanho sheepishly admits to choosing the 1-star rogue class. But their chat is cut short when a new system message pops up, heralding a synergy bonus for parties with daggers. As it happens, if 5 team members wield daggers, they all get a 10% bonus to critical hits and additional gold. It's a fascinating game-like twist. But there's no time to mull it over as another group of goblins, led by a goblin chief, approaches them. The goblins suddenly become weaker, their staffs dropping by 30%, a result of the Scent of Death skill, which activates when there are 4 or more skeletons in a party. But the goblin chief isn't phased. He powers up with his Wild Berserker skill, giving all his goblin minions a surge of strength. Identifying the chief's skill as the problem, Seongwu commands a skeleton to sever the arm the chief uses for the Berserker move. Success. The goblins lose their advantage, and the skeletons dispatch them swiftly. Even the furious chief falls easily. From the chief's remains, Seongwu acquires a rudimentary one-handed spear and the very bracelet that powered the Berserker skill. Giving a nod of appreciation to the skeleton, it responds with a series of eerie bone creaks. Approaching the campus entrance, they encounter numerous survivors. Fearing a panic, Seongwu directs his skeletons to lay low in the copy room. But as they near the exit, Jin-suk, the notorious student council member, known more for his bullying than leadership, blocks them, proudly brandishing his 2-star shield master title. Jin-suk boasts about felling a goblin. He insists that those armed should rally to protect the rest. Minsu, with wide eyes, informs Jin-suk of more goblin whispers nearby. Jin-suk quickly ushers students into the cafe for safety. Seongwu, along with Hanho, eyes a peculiar message on the main gate. Apparently, a magical force bars their way, and to dispel it, they must vanquish the boss monster within a 2-hour, 11-minute window. Failure? The monsters will grow even more formidable. As Seongwu gears up for the challenge, Jin-suk interjects, advising they wait for reinforcements. But Seongwu, convinced this catastrophe is nationwide, dismisses that as wishful thinking. As they debate, a group of goblins interrupts. To the shock of the crowd, Seongwu's skeletons emerge. Initially seen as a threat, Seongwu explains they're on their side, emphasizing his prowess compared to Jin-suk's. The goblins, weakened again by the Scent of Death, fall victim to the skeletons, and with Seongwu's aid, the skirmish is swift. With the goblin body count rising, Seongwu receives a special reward ticket from the system, ranking him 34th out of 100 who achieved it. Back inside the cafe, Seongwu rallies the students, urging them to face the reality. No cavalry is coming, and their only hope is to find and defeat the boss monster within the time limit. One student steps forward, revealing he'd seen the boss atop the building, and it had killed his professor. Knowing where he needs to head, Seongwu looks for volunteers. To his surprise, not a soul steps up, not even Hanho. But Seongwu, determined and needing Hanho's knife buff for his skeletons, isn't taking no for an answer. Amid the chaos, Chisu, a young woman of 23, steps up, revealing she's a 3-star tiger hunter. Seongwu invites Jin-suk to join them on their quest to the rooftop, but Jin-suk, ever the coward, excuses himself, saying he needs to stay and protect the remaining students. As Seongwu, Hanho, and Chisu make their way up, they face a few goblins on the stairs. With Seongwu leading the charge with his skeletons, Chisu deftly takes out 2 goblins from behind with her swift blade skills. Both men can't help but admire her prowess. On a higher floor, they stumble upon a wounded Professor Wang. He shares a grim tale. Most of his students, trying to follow the emergency evacuation manual and reach the rooftop, met their demise due to the boss monster lurking there. His final words to Seongwu? Avoid the rooftop at all costs. But his warning comes just moments before he passes away. Seongwu, affected by the tragic scene, receives an urgent quest to settle the restless spirits of the deceased by taking down the rooftop's boss monster. This task, he learns, will have significant implications for his destiny, grief and anger fueling them. The trio reach the rooftop, only to find it in complete disarray. Goblins are disrespectfully looting the belongings of the deceased students. Infuriated, Seongwu activates his bracelet's Berserker skill, supercharging his skeletons. A massive brawl ensues. Hanho, getting a burst of courage, throws his knife straight into a goblin's head, marking his first kill. He's elated, comparing his adrenaline rush to something out of a JoJo episode. But the tide turns when the goblin captain roars, boosting the morale of the goblin forces. Even though Seongwu's skeletons manage to keep most goblins at bay, the goblin captain proves to be a formidable foe, taking out skeletons with ease. Seongwu tries to summon more, but his mana dwindles quickly. The captain, now even more enraged by Hanho's knife attack, charges at him. In a desperate attempt to save Hanho, the skeletons fend off the captain, but with limited success. But just as all seems bleak, Chisu spots an opening and manages to injure the boss. Seongwu also strategically throws his spear, leaving a cut on the goblin captain's face. In the thick of the battle, Seongwu spots a sword amidst the debris. He grabs it, formulating a quick plan. He directs 2 of his skeletons to distract the captain. As expected, the boss fends them off, but this diversion allows Seongwu, Chisu, and the remaining skeleton to activate a special sword synergy. This synergy lightens their swords and boosts their attack speed. With renewed vigor, the trio, along with Hanho, go all out against the goblin captain. Seongwu's oldest skeleton, ironically a goblin he had defeated earlier, catches the captain off guard and beheads him. The aftermath? A hefty 255 gold reward and level ups for the team. Seongwu's newly acquired skill lets him craft weapons from bones, and for avenging his professor, he gets the ability to command up to 5 skeletons. Hanho earns a stealthy hood that enhances his ability to hide, while Chisu gains a fire whetstone which might ignite her blade during an attack. But there's no time to celebrate. They need to return to the entrance. As they descend, they overhear students mocking Ginsuk, who's convinced that Seongwu and his team met their end. The sudden appearance of Seongwu's skeletons sends Ginsuk into a panic. Seongwu, after a brief confrontation, opens the entrance with a mere touch, cementing his leadership and leaving Ginsuk's reputation in tatters. Charging out, Seongwu ushers the students to tail him. Everywhere you look, the ground is littered with lifeless bodies. Seongwu's pretty certain it's the goblin's handiwork. As they progress, Hanho points out a group that seems to have weathered the goblin attack. The resilience they show hints that they've had a few encounters with these monsters before. Ginsuk recognizes a familiar face among them. Taesong Park, the big shot student council president. Taesong, flaunting his leader aura, reassures Seongwu and his crew, suggesting they'd be safer if they joined him. But there's a catch. Taesong wants Seongwu to ditch his monsters because, according to Taesong, they're freaky and could be a menace. On hearing this, Jisoo, never one to mince words, calls Taesong out, exposing his dirty secret about siphoning off student funds. She recounts how she had once flagged his sketchy activities on the university portal. Flustered and red-faced, Taesong doesn't have a comeback. The revelation gets juicier when Jisoo spills more beans. Apparently, Taesong wasn't just a thief, he had a reputation for misusing his status to exploit young women. Hanho's blood boils hearing this, but Seongwu, ever the strategist, suggests they avoid the drama and chart a course through the hill. According to him, monsters would be sparse there given the minimal human activity. While navigating this route, the group encounters a monster, and orc, way mightier than the earlier goblin boss. The orc doesn't waste time and lunges at them. Seongwu, always game for a challenge, anticipates the spoils he'd gain. The battle is fierce. At one point, Jisoo almost becomes orc fodder, but a goblin skeleton jumps in, taking the blow for her. In the thick of the fight, Seongwu, Jisoo, and Hanho combine their strengths, leveraging every trick up their sleeves. With collective effort, they conquer the orc, filling their pockets with 110 gold coins. Not bad for a day's work. Although Seongwu is buzzing from the win, he can't convert the orc into a skeleton due to his summoning limits. But ever resourceful, he molds the orc's remains into bone clubs, gearing up his skeletons. Their weapon synergy becomes evident when they later face off against 5 orcs. Using deserted cars as bait, and a bit of taunting from Hanho, they lure the orcs into an ambush. With their reinforced skeletons catching the orcs off guard, the group efficiently wipes them out, netting a cool 331 gold in total. Riding the victory wave, Seongwu advances to level 4, granting him the power to control up to 7 skeletons. But there's a catch, he's capped at 50 mana. Meanwhile, Hanho unlocks a nifty dagger skill, and Jisoo buffs up, feeling more robust than before. Seongwu hands the sword back to the one-armed warrior skeleton, pointing out that Hanho should stick to his dagger to optimize his skill. En route, they spot 7 orc hunters assailing a bus. Inside, the passengers valiantly fend them off with a spear, but it's evident they won't last long. Jisoo has an idea. What if we ambush the orcs from the front and the spear wielder hits from behind? Yet Seongwu hesitates, wondering if those trapped inside would even collaborate. He quickly cooks up a new strategy. On that besieged bus, 2 figures stand out. One wields a spear and the other a sword and shield. They're doing their best but are clearly on edge, but then a car full of skeletons plows into the orcs, dealing heady blows. As the skeletons go to town, the bus's survivors mistake them for an even greater threat. Their fear only intensifies when they see Hanho knocking on the door, beckoning them. The spearman from the bus, introducing himself, mentions a machine where they can spend gold earned from downing monsters. It's like an E-rank shop. Once activated, there are 3 roulette options: bronze, silver, and gold. Hanho and Jisoo, with their respective amounts, can only go for bronze. Seongwu, boasting a sizable 1552 gold, could opt for silver but recalls an unlimited roulette ticket he snagged earlier. Choosing the gold roulette, luck shines on Seongwu. He wins a legendary item, the Tear of the Sea Spirit, which enhances his mana capacity and recovery speed. He's thrilled, realizing this means he can summon more minions, provided there are dead bodies around. Seongwu tests his luck with the silver roulette next, earning the Vanguard shield. Jisoo gets the Leader of the Expedition Force sword, while Hanho lands a C-rank potion bundle. Distantly, the sounds of battle signal that Taesong's crew is still at it on the sports field. Seongwu and team, spotting their struggle, decide to jump into the fray, this time using a bus. As the bus, driven by the spear-wielding Kyungzui, crashes into orcs, gold notifications keep popping up, delighting the driver. With Hanho and skeletons pitching in, they clear the orcs in no time, and Seongwu invites the survivors aboard. But the scene turns chaotic when Jisoo uses her fire whetstone boosted blade on an orc. Flames envelop the creature. Seongwu's minions quickly mop up the rest. Post-battle, Taesong and his gang try boarding the bus but are halted by Seongwu, who is aware they earlier used other students as bait. Their standoff is interrupted by a deafening roar, the infuriated orc chief's signal of displeasure. Understandably nervous, Seongwu knows he needs all hands on deck. Offering Taesong's group a deal, he says they can join if they obey his command. The catch? Taesong must part with his chainmail. Now at level 5, Seongwu can summon formidable creatures like orcs. His recent skill card also bumps up his minion limit. However, as he tries equipping Righty, his oldest and one-armed minion, with the chainmail, Hanho points out a logistical issue. More buses are needed for additional rescues. But Seongwu shakes his head, explaining that the orc chief, furious at their earlier interference, is set to launch an all-out war, unlike the previous waves. A fellow survivor chips in, saying he saw more than 100 orcs in the gym, which dampens the mood. But Seongwu, confident, assures everyone they've taken out a significant number already. Despite this, he's taking no chances and announces his plan to face the orcs solo, leaving Taesong and his pals smirking. While Jisoo acknowledges Seongwu's usually sharp judgment, she thinks he's pushing his luck this time. After ensuring the survivors' safety, Seongwu, with his loyal minions in tow, moves to confront his next challenge. His friends, from their bus vantage point, keep vigilant watch, ready to swoop in if things go south. On the sports field, Seongwu finds himself staring down a large horde of orcs. Leading them is a fierce-looking red-haired orc, likely some sort of mid-level boss. This red-haired brute motions for the orcs to attack Seongwu. Seongwu smartly retreats to a smaller staircase. It's an advantageous spot. The narrow staircase would make it harder for the orcs to swarm him. As the orcs make their move, Seongwu activates his bracelet skill named Berserker. This gives him and his skeletal minions a boost, a 10% increase in attack, and 20% speed advantage against all goblin-like foes, lasting 10 minutes. His skeletal crew gets to work, hurling knives at the oncoming orcs. It's a massacre. Orcs drop one after another. But the red-haired orc isn't easy prey. He deflects the knives effortlessly. Seongwu's skeletons, armed with bone gloves, lunge at the orcs, but they're quickly overwhelmed. Seeing his skeletal friends fall, the one-armed skeleton is consumed with rage, but Seongwu holds him back. It's not yet his time to join the fray. Cleverly, Seongwu starts reviving fallen orcs as skeletons. With many now wielding the same axe, they benefit from a weapons synergy buff. This revived army, unlike the living orcs, never tires. It's a masterclass from Seongwu on how best to harness his necromancer abilities. Observers from the safety of the nearby building, including Seongwu's teammates and parked bus, watch in awe. Seongwu silently thanks his new legendary item, the Tear of the Sea Spirit, boosting his total mana by 200 and accelerating its regeneration by 200%. It proves invaluable in the skirmish, but some orcs remain, still putting up a fierce fight. Seongwu unleashes Righty, his one-armed skeletal champion. In mere moments, Righty dispatches the remaining orcs. For his prowess in combat, killing 100 monsters, Seongwu is rewarded with a roulette ticket. He's the 21st to achieve this feat, and this elevates his rank to a prestigious infinite status. But his celebration is cut short. He spies a group, led by school president Taesong, in trouble, captured by another band of orcs. Seongwu dashes toward the building where Taesong's group is held. The sight inside is grim. A shaman orc, appearing as the new big boss, is surrounded by dead monster bodies. Taesong, desperate, pleads for Seongwu's help. But Seongwu snaps back that they got into this mess themselves. Tragically, as Seongwu's team engages the orcs, the creatures begin executing Taesong's followers in some dark ritual. The sight stops Seongwu's group in their tracks. Powered by these sacrifices, the boss orc releases a menacing breath of abyss, sowing confusion among Seongwu's party and rapidly burning their mana. The once shaman orc now reveals his true form, a formidable black magician orc chief. Hannibal quickly gulps down a potion to counter the boss's curse, offering one to Seongwu. Surprisingly, Seongwu's unaffected. Instead, the breath of abyss boosted his mana, skyrocketing it to 4,000. He instructs Hanho to give the potion to Jisoo instead. Empowered, Seongwu can now summon 50 minions. The boss orc is stunned, unsure of his next move. As Seongwu raises fallen foes as new minions, the boss finds himself surrounded. In a final act of desperation, he lunges at Seongwu, but Righty ends his charge, decapitating him with a swift slash. Seongwu's reward? A cool 1,055 gold, and Righty? He levels up, boosting his defensive and leadership traits. Hanho, examining the fallen orc chief, discovers a devil-attributed item. Accepting such an item means committing to challenging sacrifices if one ever wants to part with it. But for Seongwu, it's not that different from his current path as a necromancer. He accepts the item without hesitation. In the heart of the athletic field, Seongwu meets a staggering number of orcs. The standout is a red-haired orc, probably some mid-tier leader, directing the mob. This fiery orc shouts at the others to launch an assault on Seongwu. Spotting a compact stairway, Seongwu dashes to it, directing his minions to defend from that strategic spot. This location only permits orcs to advance in a single file, making it a good defensive position. As the orcs draw near, Seongwu activates his bracelet's Berserker skill. This grants him and his minions a 10% boost in attack and a 20% increase in speed when battling goblin-esque foes. The clock's ticking, only 10 minutes for this effect. Skeletons, part of Seongwu's crew, fling their knives. Orc after orc drops, their numbers thinning fast. But the red-haired orc deflects these flying blades. At Seongwu's command, the skeletons switch tactics and use their bone gloves in combat, yet the orc's sheer force overwhelms them. Witnessing the carnage, the one-armed skeleton rages, itching to join the fray. Seongwu, however, restrains him. His turn hasn't come yet. Then, capitalizing on his necromancer abilities, Seongwu brings the fallen orcs back to life to fight alongside him. A synergy buff kicks in, thanks to 5 orcs carrying identical axe weaponry. These orc-skeleton hybrids don't fatigue like their living counterparts and relentlessly mow down the orc army. Meanwhile, from a nearby building's windows, onlookers gape in awe at Seongwu's prowess. His buddies on a bus nearby share in the jubilation, impressed by his strategies. Seongwu, on the other hand, marvels at his new legendary sea spirit item, which beefs up his mana capacity and its regeneration rate. Still, a stubborn group of orcs continues to resist. So, Seongwu signals to Righty, one of his minions. In a blink, Righty dispatches the remaining orcs. An in-game alert tells Seongwu he's slain 100 monsters and achieved the 21st slot in this feat. This bumps his rank to infinite status, a privilege shared by only 100 players. Suddenly, they spot a bus ramming into the main gate. There's trouble afoot. School President Taesong and his crew are orc captives. Seongwu, ready to stage a rescue, marches in their direction, inspiring other awoken ones to rally behind him. Inside, he finds Taesong's team imprisoned. A shaman orc, presumably their new leader, is there surrounded by fallen monsters. As Seongwu preps his team, a chilling scene unfolds. The orcs slaughter members of Taesong's group as part of a ritual, empowering the boss orc. Witnessing this, some of Seongwu's group halts in shock. This boss then releases the Breath of Abyss, confusing Seongwoo's allies and rapidly draining their mana. Emerging from the shadows, a reinforced boss monster reveals himself, a junior black magician orc. Manhwa, one of Seongwoo's crew, gulps down a potion, countering the effect of the abyss. He offers some to Seongwoo, but strangely, the abyss's effect has supercharged Seongwoo's mana. Now Seongwoo can conjure 50 minions simultaneously. This wasn't part of the boss's plan, leaving him rattled. In the midst of this chaos, Jisoo and Manhwa attempt to face off with the boss. However, Seongwoo halts them, and with his newfound might, resurrects every fallen being in the room. This strategy hands Seongwoo an array of weapon synergies, making him a formidable force. Though the orc chief manages to crush numerous skeletons, they persistently revive. The chief, unnerved by the transformed Seongwoo, seeks an escape. However, Seongwoo's minions, forming a barricade, block his path. In a desperate move, the chief lunges at Seongwoo, only for Righty to decapitate him. This victory earns Seongwoo a significant gold amount, and Righty levels up, enhancing his defenses and leadership traits. Manhwa spots an oddity, a devil attribute item, emerging from the slain boss's mouth. Such items, once accepted, demand immense sacrifices for removal. But Seongwoo, undeterred and seeing similarities with his Necromancer class, claims it. This newfound artifact, named the Devil's Bloodstone Orb, is legendary in rank. It grants its holder a devilish trait, siphoning an enemy's mana during combat. If the foe's mana depletes, the orb starts draining their physical energy. Emerging from the battleground, Seongwoo's return is met with raucous cheers. The seal on the campus gate lifts, signaling the tutorial's end. Though they leave the campus, chaos mirrors the outside world. Spearman Kyung-soo Lee informs Seongwoo about 2 available buses that can transport them to a military base, yet Seongwoo, citing his home's proximity, declines. All survivors board the bus, except for Manhwa and Jisoo, who decide to accompany Seongwoo. Interestingly, Seongwoo offers Manhwa a peculiar proposition, to join him if he agrees to amputate one of his arms. This, he believes, would heighten the synergy with Righty, his one-handed skeleton. However, their discussions are cut short by an alarming sight, dragons pursuing a moving bus. Unfortunately, the bus occupants aren't as lucky as Seongwoo and his crew. The dragons make short work of them. Resolute, Seongwoo declares that they must now hunt monsters, leveling up, or meet the same grim fate as the bus passengers. Their next targets, goblins. As they take down goblins, Seongwoo advances to level 6 and selects a strength-boosting card. As he assesses their loot, he learns from Manhwa about the higher XP and rewards from hunting orcs. They decide to switch their focus. However, their orc hunt is interrupted by a grim scene. Abandoned military vehicles surrounded by fallen soldiers, some clutching shovels as makeshift weapons. Among the casualties, a confused soldier recognizes Seongwoo's skeletons. After Seongwoo clarifies, the soldier informs Sergeant Kim about their new allies. Sergeant Kim, injured from a goblin attack, is in dire straits. Puzzled, Seongwoo asks why the military is resorting to shovels over firearms. Sergeant Kim reveals that guns have become obsolete, leading to the military's downfall. Manhwa, showing empathy, suggests offering a healing potion to the sergeant. Yet Seongwoo believes in fair trade. In exchange for the potion, Sergeant Kim shares intel about bull-sized wolves decimating military squads. He also mentions 2 blue QR codes, one in a bus station and the other in a subway transfer center. These codes, once scanned, install a communication app, the only viable communication method now. Grateful for the potion, Sergeant Kim offers to escort them to the main unit. However, Seongwoo, aware of the perils they pose, declines. As a parting gift, he warns them about dragons targeting moving vehicles, leaving Sergeant Kim and the soldier even more terrified. Reaching the bus station, they scan the QR code, and the app installs. An official announcement heralds the game's official launch, detailing the player statistics and highlighting an upcoming class card selection in 3 days. Seongwoo checks the app's message board, noting the high cost of posting. A new post catches his attention. Some level 8 players are establishing a safe zone in an apartment complex in Hwasong City, intriguingly close to Manhwa's residence. Though tempted, Seongwoo is wary of their higher level. As they head towards the 8 apartments, the post gets deleted, replaced by another cautioning readers to disregard the previous message. The post author sports vampire-like long teeth. Meanwhile, in the city, a father tries to shield his daughter from encroaching goblins using a baseball bat. Just as they seem doomed, a flying knife pierces a goblin's head. It's Seongwoo's minions to the rescue, who effortlessly eliminate the goblin threat. Seongwu offers to safely escort the father and his daughter to their home. However, the dad explains that their house is just around the corner, and they had only ventured out in search of food. Grateful, Seongwu generously shares some of his food with them. While they talk, two crafty goblins make a beeline for the basement. Turns out that basement doubles as a dungeon. Manhwa, curious, asks if they should pursue the goblins into the depths. The father hesitates before advising against it. He reveals that a man named Avradov once operated a karaoke joint there, but rumors suggest something far more sinister than goblins lurk below. Heeding the warning, Seongwu and his crew decide to tackle a different challenge: the Elder Slime Shrine. Inside, they face off against slimes, each rewarding 140 gold upon defeat. A significant detail about these slimes: their corrosive nature allows them to melt metal, but interestingly, not bones. This gives Seongwoo's skeletal minions a distinct advantage. However, the tide turns when the boss Elder Slime emerges, effortlessly crushing one of Seongwoo's orc skeletons. With only bones scattered around, Seongwu can't summon more skeletons, but he devises a quick strategy. He molds basic bone weapons from the skeletons. Jisoo, seizing the moment, hurls a skeleton towards the formidable slime. Using it, Seongwu crafts 2 more bone spears, landing solid blows on the boss. The Elder Slime, attempting to engulf Seongwu, instead captures an orc skeleton loaded with a bag full of bones. That was a colossal error on the slime's part. Manhwa quickly pulls the orc back, but Seongwu utilizes the excess bones to conjure numerous bone spears. These, combined with the efforts of his minions slicing the slime, halt its regeneration process. Righty, a loyal minion, lands the final blow, rewarding them with a whopping 2,255 gold. The defeated slime's residue is a potent acid. Seongwu directs his minions to carefully collect this mucus in empty containers. Among the loot, he discovers the Elder Slime's core. Surrounded by a robust shell, its core contains a concentrated acid that can practically dissolve anything. This unique property can be harnessed to either dissolve or merge objects seamlessly. Manhwa, amidst the chaos, nudges Seongwu to inspect a fresh comment on their app. The situation at the H apartments, as depicted by the comments, seems to be spiraling out of control. Any newcomer reaching the apartments sees their comments promptly deleted. Manhwa might not be the sharpest tool, but even he senses something suspicious about the apartment. Seongwu has his suspicions about the true nature of the happenings there. Nighttime unveils a more sinister side of the city. A group of thugs is discussing a sinister plot. The reward? Killing a regular human fetches 500 gold. But if they eliminate a player, they earn gold multiplied by the player's level, a staggering amount. Inside a car, a beefy thug curiously asks his bald counterpart about their ultimate boss. The response leaves him terrified. Their leader is none other than the notorious serial killer, Professor Red. Back in the slime dungeon, Seongwu poses a heady question to Manhwa. Can you kill a person? He believes chaos is about to escalate. The burly thug, reflecting on his past, recalls his transformation into a vampire lord's minion after a fatal bite. He wasn't just any vampire, but a high-ranking one. His violent tendencies were so extreme that he even preyed on his own crew. This brutality pleased Professor Red. Fast forward to the present, a henchman interrupts the thug's conversation, confirming the arrival of their next targets, 3 individuals waiting at a park. As they drive to ambush Seongwoo's party, the bald vampire, now revealing his undead nature, boasts about the 17 victims they've lured using the vast and intricate H apartments. The building's residents prefer turning a blind eye to the situation. But little do they know that once the thugs exhaust their external prey, the residents will be next on the menu. As the thugs spot their 3 targets, they're in for a shock. The targets are just decoy bone skeletons set up by Seongwu. Using these skeletons, Seongwu crafts bone spears that puncture the thug's vehicle. With lightning speed, he breaches the window, dragging the bald vampire out. A fierce brawl ensues. Questioning the vampire about the hostages, the situation takes a dark turn. In a fit of rage, the bald vampire beheads his own henchman. Morphing his wrist bones into a deadly blade, he then gruesomely drinks blood from the decapitated head. This macabre act heals him and even boosts his stats. Once a 3-star ninja, The vampire's powers were significantly amplified after Professor Red's bite. Despite the dire circumstances, Seongwu remains undeterred, ready to confront whatever challenges await. When someone's turned into a vampire, they start at level 1. However, it's not as limiting as it sounds. If they target humans instead of monsters and drink their blood, they can take on the victim's stats. The bald vampire goes berserk, temporarily boosting his abilities by 20%. But this comes with a downside. After this rush, he'll suffer a 50% stat reduction for a whole 10 hours. Seongwu reckons this vampire class is more brutal than even his own necromancer abilities. Seongwu rallies Hanho and Jisoo, instructing them to stay behind him. He signals his skeletons to strike the vampire, but this creature is incredibly moving fast and easy, avoiding their moves with ease. As the vampire lunges for Seongwu, he deflects the blow with his shield. Jisoo comes in, slashing with her blades, but the vampire sidesteps effortlessly. In a whirl of motion, Hanho hurls a barrage of daggers, which only seems to irritate the creature more. Suddenly, the vampire charges at Hanho. Righty intervenes, deflecting his assault. As Righty tries to end the vampire, the creature swiftly dodges, leaving Seongwu to counter with his shield. However, with one powerful strike, the vampire shatters Seongwu's defense. As the two engage in a fierce duel, Jisoo sneaks in, her sword aflame, attempting a surprise attack, but the vampire's reflexes are too sharp. When all seems bleak, Righty swoops in from Jisoo's rear, severing the vampire's arm, but backup arrives just in time for the vampire, causing even his fellow thugs to recoil in fear at his true nature. As his limb regenerates, Jisoo quickly cuts it off once more. An orc skeleton lunges at the vampire, who easily overpowers it. But this is merely a diversion. Seongwu thrusts through the skeleton, impaling the vampire. With one swift move, Seongwu decapitates him, netting the party 1,000 gold for defeating a level 1 player. Seongwu pieces things together about the happenings in the 8 apartments. Players were being hunted for their gold and experience. The thugs, now surrounded by Seongwu's minions, are commanded to drop their weapons. Through them, Seongwu learns of their elusive boss, though details are sparse. He's told of the 21 or 22 victims, enraging him. Deeming them a threat to innocence, Seongwu orders their elimination, earning an additional 5,000 gold. Both Hanho and Jisoo are taken aback but concur with Seongwu's decision. By morning, a post surfaces online detailing the sinister activities of those at Apartment H. Sergeant Kim rejoices when he reads the account, recognizing Seongwu's handiwork. Posts praising Seongwu's crew flood in, though none identify him by name. Somewhere in a desolate structure, a shadowy figure smiles at these comments, then departs for parts unknown. Hanho then shares a new tip about a user named Prosecutor who's offering a platform for those low on gold. Amid the discussions, many speak of lost loved ones or share information on various game mechanics. Reaching Hanho's home, the sight of deceased orcs greets them. Inside, a touching reunion takes place as Hanho reunites with his parents, who never picked a class card. They share their tale of repelling the orcs with pesticides, much to everyone's astonishment. As they enjoy a meal together, Hanho's mother serves green tea, expressing her gratitude to Jisoo and Seongwu for looking after her useless son. As the night deepens, a gang of bikers outside seems to take interest in the building, while inside, a refreshed Jisoo is thankful for the shower and pajamas provided by Hanho's mother. Seongwu, Hanho, and Righty are freshening up with a quick shower. Seongwu's heart lightens up when he thinks about Hanho's parents being safe and sound. It's surprising and kind of genius how Hanho's dad fended off those orcs just using pesticides. Seongwu knew the orcs' strong sense of smell would have made them susceptible. He can't help but think how thrilled Hanho must be, reuniting with his folks. But Seongwu knows it's not safe here for long. Those orcs? They were probably just the scouts. If their main group found out about this place, it'd turn into a battlefield. And now there's a challenge of deciding their next move. Seongwu comes across a post by Prosecutor. This guy mentions that he, along with a friend who is a 3-star pioneer, have set up a safe zone in Yongdong Station. But it's not free. Staying safe there costs either gold or resources, since maintaining that safe zone is energy draining for the pioneer. As much as Seongwu is doubtful, the world's changed. It's all a game now. But the station is too far for Hanho's parents to travel. Then Seongwu spots another post. It's from someone named Chief Gu. He's also a 3-star pioneer, and has a haven in Hwasong Fortress just a bus ride away. They decide that's where they'll head next. In the midst of bustling daily life, Seongwu steps off a jam-packed bus, visibly worn out from the trip. This tough daily commute from his home is a routine for him. Hanho, his buddy, teases him, pointing out how Seongwu endured rigorous military service as a Special Forces Reserve Sergeant, but now struggles with a mere 2-hour bus journey. Not one to back down, Seongwu playfully jabs back, reminding Hanho that he skipped his military service for a girl named Miam. This comment instantly silences Hanho. As they walk to class, Seongwu, noticing the quiet, asks Hanho if he's upset. Instead of answering, Hanho points towards the sky above the library building, claiming he saw a message that read, "Downloading monsters." It vanished once it hit 100%. Assuming Hanho is distracted due to past heartbreak and his video game habits, Seongwu advises him to get back to reality. They part ways, heading to their individual classes. During a lecture, Seongwu begins to feel a wave of dizziness, struggling to stay focused. Out of the blue, a blackout hits, and a mysterious system message appears before the class. Choose a class for the apocalypse. A 15-second countdown starts, and various skill cards, each adorned with stars, appear before the students. As panic sets in, some students advise against selecting a card due to the potential danger. Others fear the consequences of not choosing before time runs out. Seongwu, attempting to grab a 2-star warrior card, is thwarted when another student, Minsu, beats him to it. Minsu's prize? A gleaming sword in hand. In a rush, Seongwu picks a card with 5 stars, revealing he's now a necromancer. Only Seongwu and Minsu have made selections. Minsu, though armed, is bewildered by his new sword. Chaos reigns when a student bursts into the classroom, with a small goblin-like creature clinging to him, relentlessly stabbing him. The room watches in horror as the creature coldly finishes off the student. Panic engulfs the class, and many look to Minsu for help, given his new weapon. Yet, Minsu freezes in fear. Seongwu knows he can't rely on Minsu. When the goblin lunges at him, Seongwu reflexively kicks it, realizing it's surprisingly light. Seizing a nearby chair, he crushes the goblin's head, ending its rampage. For his efforts, the system rewards him with 10 gold coins. Grasping the changed reality quicker than most, Seongwu understands they're now in a game-like world. Another system alert informs him of his ability to resurrect the dead. When he reanimates the goblin he defeated, the classroom witnesses his newfound power as a necromancer. The calm is short-lived as 2 more goblins barge in. Seongwu's skeletal minion battles them, but it's evident he needs assistance. When he requests Minsu's sword, the terrified boy declines. Seongwu improvises, hurling another chair, providing the opening his undead ally needs to vanquish both goblins. Seongwu's reward? Another 20 gold coins. The fight concludes, and Seongwu learns he's maxed out his minion count. The classmates, trying to grasp the situation, share that similar chaos reigns across the campus, evident from distant screams. But the real shock comes when Seongwu peeks outside. The entire city is ablaze. Some students, hoping to survive, suggest leaving the campus. As they navigate the corridors, more goblins pursue them, yet Seongwu's skeletal warriors keep them at bay, allowing the rest to flee. Seongwu, amidst the madness, realizes that in this new game world, defeating foes like the goblins helps him grow stronger. Morning comes, and they set off towards Hwasong Fortress, Hanho's parents joining the crew. Along the way, Hanho's dad shares his worries about some rogue survivors robbing others. Sure enough, they're soon ambushed by a gang led by a feisty girl. Seongwu, ever the protective leader, is ready to order his hidden minions to jump into action. But suddenly, there's this noise. Before they know it, those ruffians are speeding away on their bikes, terrified. And then they see them, giant wolves, but they're not just attacking randomly. Seongwu thinks quickly. When one of the wolves lunges at them, he tosses a bottle filled with slime straight into its face. His loyal minions hurl bone spears, quickly subduing the creature. Another wolf, seeing an opportunity, tries to escape but falls into Seongwu's trap, ending up with a mouthful of slime. Writing finishes this one off with precision. The final wolf is overwhelmed and soon defeated. The reward? 240 gold for each wolf, pushing Seongwu up to level 7. After the skirmish, Seongwu senses Jisoo-yoon's unease. He tries to assure her, but he himself is unsure about Hanho's progress. He even attempts to resurrect a wolf, but his current level doesn't suffice. The next day's journey is abruptly interrupted by a sight from a window, a military helicopter pursued by menacing wyverns. To everyone's shock, a particularly massive wyvern emerges and shreds the helicopter to pieces. With wyverns still perched on rooftops, the group decides to lay low until the creatures leave. As night falls and the wyverns still lurk, a sudden message appears. It's time to pick a class card, a tool to help them survive this chaotic world. Hanho urges his parents to aim for the stars, literally. But Seongwu knows that synergy with his current class, Necromancer, is crucial. He selects a 3-star Dark Mage Link card, which melds seamlessly with his class, gifting him a new skill called Death Arrow. Meanwhile, Hanho, in his rush, ends up with a 1-star Priest card. Hanho's dad becomes a 3-star Pioneer, a decision that pleases Seongwu as it negates their need to reach Hwasong Fortress. Hanho's mom, however, chooses a 1-star Chef card, drawing some playful chiding from her son. Jisoo acquires a 3-star Hitman card, heightening her senses in dangerous situations. Eager to pull her weight, she's determined to get stronger for Seongwu's sake. Curious about the Pioneer abilities, Seongwu asks Hanho's dad to shed some light. The skill, as explained, creates a protective zone spanning 2,150 square feet and up to 33 feet in height. It uses up mana at a steady rate, and if that runs out, it consumes gold instead. It's clear the world they now inhabit will test their resourcefulness and strategy at every turn. Seongwu and the crew were discussing the shield around their safety zone. It could self-repair but wasn't immune to strong blows. With caution, Seongwu emphasized that it should be their last resort, fearing potential abuse by other groups with Pioneer skills. Just then, the wyverns, rested from their break, soared away. Checking their resources, Seongwu turned to Hanho. Find a store or a roulette machine location on the forum. We need to power up. However, the sudden hum of motorbikes nearby made them tense. Seongwu suggested that they could inquire from these bikers about a store's whereabouts. It turned out these bikers, or delinquents, had been holed up in a meat shop hiding from the wyverns. Their leader, Taeson, was itching to gather more gold for another chance at the roulette. When he reached his base, it was unusually silent. Inside, the atmosphere was heady. His crew broke the news. Their mate, Eugene, had been transformed into a lesser vampire by a full-blooded one. Heartbreak shifted to tension when a second vampire emerged, questioning Taeson about why he had taken out their previous leader, Woo-seok. Taeson replied he had no option since Woo-seok, after turning into a full-fledged vampire, went on a murderous spree. Suddenly, Seongwu's squad walked in, clearly unhappy with their welcome by these thugs. Words were exchanged, tensions flared, and a full-blown fight erupted. The vampire, initially underestimating Seongwu's crew, soon found himself in a tight spot. Jisoo, wielding her fire-boosted blade, successfully took down the vampire, using her supreme sense to evade his attacks. Seongwu's new skill also gave them an upper hand, weakening the vampire while bolstering his own crew. The situation was clear to Taeson. He pleaded with Seongwu, insisting that he wasn't affiliated with the vampire. Seongwu was unmoved and demanded everything they had. Hanho quickly pointed out that their loot was disappointing. While discussing the recent battle, a thought crossed Seongwu's mind. The increase in lesser vampires indicated a bigger threat. These lesser beings were being used by a more formidable vampire to collect resources. They realized that they were dealing with an adversary who was strategic and cunning. The group's recent encounter with a single vampire had been tough. Facing multiple ones would be disastrous. Eager to divert their attention and be in Seongwu's good books, Taeson offered to lead them to a nearby store. Just as they were about to proceed, a red alert from the game system flashed before them. It posed a question about the fate of players who didn't select a card during the second-class selection. A chill ran down their spines as they realized the gravity of the situation. Minsuk, one of the delinquents, confessed in a panic that he hadn't chosen a card, along with another person named Chae. Before they could process the information, another alarming system message appeared. Those who didn't pick any cards were about to be turned into monsters. Minsuk's transformation into a fearsome creature is imminent, and he urgently advises everyone to stay clear. A surge of fear washes over Seongwu, knowing fully well that once the transformation completes, these creatures would be an overwhelming force. Seizing the moment, Seongwu instructs his crew to strike before the metamorphosis fully takes hold. As his minions dived into the attack, one of his skeletal soldiers falls, undone by a werewolf's powerful strike. which only underlines the urgency to neutralize the threat before full transformation. In the end, the group's combined efforts do prevail. For their victory, Seongwu bags 6,000 gold and advances to level 8. This amazes him. The werewolves they tackled near Hanho's place fetched just 240 gold coins apiece, but these semi-transformed ones were worth a whopping 3,000 gold each. As he levels up, Seongwu randomly picks stats cards, boosting his speed by 3. Hanho voices his concerns about facing more such formidable monsters. Seongwu, reassessing his previous reservations about resurrecting humans, decides to bring both werewolves under his command, valuing their potential power against vampires. Taesong seems uneasy given that Seongwu had just made a minion out of his now-deceased friend. He guides the group to the store located in a used car complex. Notably, this area is dominated by a gang with ties to the vampires, known for abducting humans on the vampires' behalf. The eerie silence at the car complex puts everyone on edge. As they delve deeper, they hear agonizing screams, leading them to a standoff between a bear-like monster and a vampire. The bear, Seongwu observes, must have once been a human. Restrained, the man couldn't pick a class and consequently underwent the transformation. Now, the bear and vampire clash fiercely. But as they wear each other out, Seongwu's newly acquired werewolf minions step in, swiftly ending the battle. Earning gold from the bear's defeat, Seongwu adds the creature to his minion roster. They then spot a familiar bus, the same one Kyungsoo, their schoolmate, drove. The realization that their peers might have been captured by vampires dawns upon them. However, they're interrupted by Taesong's old friend, Eugene, now a thrall of the vampire lord. This powerful creature derides Seongwu, branding him an insignificant bug, and afflicts him with a curse. Even after a powerful counter-kick from Seongwu, the curse remains, revealing itself as a tracking mark. This means Seongwu's position will be betrayed to the vampire lord every 12 hours. Despite the pressing situation, they find a moment to visit the D-rank store, which offers different goods than the school's roulette machine. Holding back his special ticket for later, Seongwu takes his chances and is rewarded with an exclusive skill, Refuge in the Void. This provides a recovery space for his minions and allows instant summons, with an additional potent subskill that can unleash a deadly curse. His companions, Hanho and Jisoo, also try their luck. Jisoo acquires a B-rank survival package, while Hanho snags a piece of armor named Tough Bullhide Cuirass. The trio marvels at their new acquisitions, with the others especially awed by Seongwu's incredible fortune. With this new skill, Seongwu can now travel without alarming others, given that he can hide his minions till needed. Shifting scenes, we find Spearman Kyungsoo amidst a sea of fallen bodies, lamenting his choice to split from Seongwu's group outside the college. They had aimed for a military base, but what they found there was only ruins. The rest of the survivors were quick to pin the blame on Kyungsoo, who put forward the military base idea. A friend whispers about the Hwasong fortress. Deciding to move there proved a mistake, as they met a horde of monsters and hostile humans. Suddenly, one of the vampires delivers a hard kick to Spearman Kyungsoo, joking about turning him into a meal. Kyungsoo knew it was a thin line. These vampires would toss him aside the moment he ceased being of use. But as they marched the human survivors into a building, a familiar face stood in their way, Righty. To the vampires, Righty seemed like another low-tier monster, so they lunged. It was a trap. Spears of bone shot out, skewering some. As the dust settled, out from the void sprang Seongwu's minions. Relief washed over Kyungsoo seeing Seongwu again, noting how much stronger he seemed. The order was clear: subdue all but one vampire for questioning. Kyungsoo, still raw from his friend's loss, made quick work of the last vampire after gaining information. Consoling Kyungsoo, Seongwu acknowledged the world was different, but these vampires couldn't be allowed to roam unchecked. Inside the factory, a conversation took place. Hunters updated a level 5 vampire manager about their human captures, and the manager painted a dreamy future where they'd rule, making the hopeful human players believe in eventual vampirism. Suddenly, Seongwu burst in, quickly dubbing them delusional creeps. Chaos ensued with black smoke rolling in, handicapping the vampires and their human allies. Despite the odds, the vampire manager was confident. Take out Seongwu, and his minions would fall. Hanho's quick thinking blinded the manager with a slimy potion, and the fight intensified. Just when they felt the tide turning, the vampire leader pumped power into the manager, making him a formidable force. Seongwu's team was pushed back, their strength dwindling against the Berserk manager. But luck was on Seongwu's side when he spotted a fallen Cerberus. Bringing it back, he bolstered his werewolf minions with the Cerberus's powers. The battle raged on, with both sides uncertain of the outcome. Amidst the chaos, the werewolves succeeded in pinning down the vampire manager. Seongwu, not one to miss an opportunity, demanded the vampire relay a message to their supreme leader. Their ventures in Hwasong were doomed. For ending such a noteworthy opponent, Seongwu earned 10,000 gold. Trying his hand at an untested skill, he revived the vampire manager on his first attempt. Suddenly, a flood of memories from the vampire manager, Kim, washed over him. In this vivid flashback, the vampire lord was seen probing his underlings about the true aim of their game. When met with blank stares, he admitted his own ignorance. However, the vampire lord was convinced of a grander purpose, to usher in a new species and reshape the world. He shared details of a fresh quest, tasking manager Kim with gathering provisions for a lavish feast meant to lure survivors. Emerging from the memory, Seongwu was seething. The game offered him a unique quest titled Master of Death, where he was to avert or exploit a forthcoming massacre, clearly woven into his destiny. Deep in thought, Seongwu appeared lifeless to Hanho, who began grieving his friend. Seongwu soon stirred, assuring Hanho of his well-being and shared the memories he had glimpsed. At the vampire lord's lair, irritation bubbled. The loss of manager Kim, despite the added strength, was a sore point. Madame Yang, curious, asked if Seongwu could pose a threat. The vampire lord laughed off the idea of being bested by mere skeletons, but he acknowledged the need to handle Seongwu post their grand feast. Morning brought news of a captivating online forum post by a manager Kim. It beckoned survivors with promises of safety and waived gold fees. Hanho, spotting the ruse, almost countered it, but Seongwu stopped him. Any change in their plan would jeopardize his advantage. Jisoo and Hanho shared their discoveries, a trove of potions and a wireless charging battery. Among the potions was one named treatment, which proved to be a cure for infections. Seongwu put it to use instantly, healing Taesong's friend. Grateful, Taesong and his gang thanked Seongwu, who made it clear that the favor wasn't free. Seongwu then requested Mr. Lee, Hanho's dad, to deploy his healing skill. The whole area was soon enveloped in a healing shield. With wounds mending, Hanho's mom offered food that boosted their abilities. Seongwu learned that he alone had received a special quest, hinting to Jisoo that she could sit this one out. However, Jisoo was determined to improve her skills rather than risk being overtaken by something deadlier than vampires. A notification interrupted their conversation. It announced that survivors were only at the game's first chapter, praising their survival while highlighting the transformation of the fallen into werebeasts. The message hinted at graver challenges ahead, with a week-long event locking players within Seongwu and Hwasong Fortress. Rewards were now doubled, combo cards were up for grabs, and regional boss monsters promised high-tier loot. Seongwu relished the quest terms, but Hanho was less thrilled. Angry at Seongwu for dragging him into danger, he voiced his concern. But Seongwu was candid, pointing out Hanho's vulnerabilities and his reliance on Seongwu's protection. The journey was just starting. Hanho quickly shifts the conversation, mentioning that people are actively responding to Seongwu's post on the community forum. There are all kinds of reactions, but one particular comment stands out. It's from the prosecutor of Yongdong, the same person who built a base using a level 3 pioneer skill. Apparently, he's established a guild named Independence, and their primary goal is ensuring their group's survival. They've been fortifying their safe zone, hunting down monsters, and saving survivors. Seongwu ponders a bit and figures this prosecutor is overly ambitious. He inquires about Hanho's level, and the reply comes swift. Level 5. Seongwu thinks Hanho should spend more time leveling up since he's a tad behind. Kyung-soo, the spearman, announces their arrival and pulls over. Everyone disembarks, and Seongwu mentions that this will be their new hunting ground. Oddly, monsters known as kobolds are lurking behind various obstructions like cars. Even though these kobolds can wield magic, they're not particularly intimidating, and the team takes them down swiftly. The primary objective of this hunt is twofold: to help Hanho gain experience and to recruit minions for Seongwu. Seongwu observes the scattered corpses around the parking area and draws parallels to what might have happened at college campuses. He muses that densely populated places like this faced a similar ordeal. Kyung-soo speculates that areas with a lower population, such as countryside locales or smaller mountain villages like Jeju Island, might be safer. This sparks a reaction from Jisoo, whose family lives on Jeju Island. She's quick to reassure everyone, mentioning her influential family should be safe and sound. The group then proceeds to enter a mart, but suddenly magic seals off their exit. They're now trapped in a vast dungeon named the Sorcerer's Fortress. The only way out? Defeat the dungeon's boss. Without warning, a large magical circle forms, and the party members find themselves teleported to various spots within the dungeon. Hanho lands in a tricky situation, surrounded by chattering kobolds who gleefully note he's all alone. At first, Hanho feels a wave of fear, but after killing one of the creatures, he realizes he's impervious to pain for a short duration after each kill, thanks to one of his priest's skills. With newfound confidence, Hanho confronts the kobolds, telling them off and feeling like a powerhouse from a classic anime. Meanwhile, Kyung-soo and Jisoo team up to locate the rest of their crew. They stumble upon Hanho, freshly victorious over a group of kobolds. Jisoo's jaw drops in disbelief, while Hanho brags about his newly discovered potential. Seongwu, on the other hand, isn't struggling. Accompanied by his minions, he's tearing through the kobolds. Eventually, he discovers a gravely injured survivor amidst a pile of kobold corpses. The survivor hands Seongwu a box containing a unique egg, hinting that it houses a real dragon. With his dying breath, the survivor reveals that the dungeon boss holds the token to this egg and had stolen it from him. Seongwu is more determined than ever to retrieve that token in memory of this fallen dragon knight. Seongwu and his crew soon encounter a mighty kobold sorcerer, the boss of this dungeon, who is shielded by a magical barrier. To break it, they must destroy 3 dispersed cores in the dungeon. In a fit of rage, the boss casts a dangerous spell. Any player below level 10 within the dungeon will perish within an hour unless they stop the spell. The pressure mounts as Seongwu realizes his entire team is below level 10. Diving straight into it, Seongwu's minions tried relentlessly to break the protective force field around the boss, but nothing was working. Seongwu quickly deduced that ordinary hits were futile. With a quick order, his minions started piling up the corpses of the fallen kobolds around the boss. Seongwu then took a strategic retreat from the room and set off an explosive detonation using the piled-up kobolds. However, upon his return, he was stunned to find the boss completely unscathed. The boss, fueled by anger, began to speed up the casting of a deadly spell, leaving only 52 minutes to spare. Seongwu wasn't having it. Gaining insights from the memory fragments he had collected from defeated kobold sorcerers, Seongwu pinpointed the locations of the cores that powered the force field. The first core on their floor met a swift end at the hands of Righty. Time was slipping fast, with only 19 minutes remaining. As they ascended to the next floor, the scene was littered with kobold corpses, likely the handiwork of Jisoo. Nearing the second core to Seongwu and Righty's amazement, Hanho was in action, showing the kobolds who's boss. Jisoo informed Seongwu that she'd already taken out a core on her floor. Hanho, proving to be incredibly effective, insisted they hurried to the final core. As they closed in on their objective, desperate kobolds swarmed them, attempting to defend the last core. But with some teamwork, especially a leap from Righty, the last core was sliced in half, dismantling the boss's protective shield. With the clock ticking, they had a mere 9 minutes to defeat the boss. Seongwu was not in the mood for games. With every ounce of their strength and strategy, they fought the now transforming boss who took on the appearance of a fallen tree spirit. This new form began to obliterate Seongwu's minions, though Seongwu and his team evaded its blows. Jisoo used her fiery sword to injure the spirit, but it regenerated rapidly. Seongwu had a plan, using the corpses of the kobolds to create an explosion, weakening the boss. They continued their onslaught, draining the boss's mana with Seongwu's treasured Devil Bloodstorm orb, rendering the tree spirit vulnerable. In a final calculated move, Seongwu ignited a massive explosion using the piled kobold corpses, effectively ending the boss. The rewards were hefty. Seongwu earned 12,840 gold, leveled up to 10, and obtained a roulette ticket for being the 69th individual to hit that milestone. With his enhanced capabilities, Seongwu could now summon and control an impressive 25 undead creatures simultaneously, a considerable edge for the looming battle against the vampire lord. Seongwu also obtained the coveted dragon token, a powerful sword, yet he was hit with a snag, Hatching the dragon egg he possessed would either require to be close to him for a hopping 5,000 days, or be hastened by defeating mighty adversaries with the new sword. Hanho humorously pointed out that it would take a full 13 years to hatch the egg through proximity alone. Suddenly, Taesong, who was undercover at Haegling Square, sent word to Seongwu. Hundreds were present, but the anticipated vampire appearance was yet to occur. Seongwu was also informed that these covert messages weren't cheap, costing him 300 gold each. Amidst these updates, Seongwu's orc skeleton made a discovery: 2 fallen werewolves, likely casualties of the tree spirit. Seongwu promptly revived them, boosting his werewolf count to 5 and overall minion count to 15. Seongwu concluded that the present moment was right to move on Hwaseong to put an end to the vampire menace. But as the unsuspecting survivors awaited in Haegling Square, unseen vampires observed them, ready to act. Their second-in-command hinted at a plan in motion, focused on the one who had dared to assault their factory. The vampire lord is adamant about taking out this specific guy before he meddles with their lavish feast. Taesong, always with an eye out, notices the vampire group mobilizing and shoots a quick message to Seongwu, letting him know. Interestingly, Seongwu learns from the vampire lord's specialized curse skill that their destination is the elementary school. Upon arrival, a dead werewolf sprawled atop a car catches their attention. Fresh wounds suggest that Seongwu's minions might have been the culprits. Blood smears lead them to a nearby auditorium. Bursting through its doors, their advance is led by a powerful vampire master capable of taking on 2 werewolves simultaneously. This master is reputed for being the right hand of the vampire lord, but surprise, surprise. Inside, they find Seongwu, backed by his loyal minions. The overconfident vampires mistakenly assume they have the upper hand. Thinking he's cornered, they pursue him, but Seongwu cleverly lures them into a trap. Suddenly, from the shadows, Seongwu springs forth his hidden minions. Zombies rise, with a bloodlust amplified by the death response. The scene turns chaotic as zombies tear into the vampire ranks. Righty, always reliable, buffs the skeleton minions, further strengthening the onslaught. A female vampire, in a desperate bid, lunges for Seongwu, but fireballs from the ever-vigilant kobold sorcerers intercept her. Righty, seeing the opportunity, swiftly delivers the killing blow, netting Seongwu a neat 2,000 gold. However, the vampire master still stands, defiant and powerful. As he soars towards Seongwu tactically detonates a nearby zombie, staggering the master. Seizing the moment, Ravo pounces on him, and with one masterful stroke from Seongwu's nameless sword, the vampire master meets his end. This victory earns Seongwu 20,000 gold and shaves off some days from the dragon egg's hatching time. Reviving the defeated vampires as minions, Seongwu discovers a synergy in his party because of his numerous vampire skeletons. The bonus? They all gain enhanced bleed damage, and when down, they go berserk, supercharging their stats. Meanwhile, Jisoo and Hanho, blending in with the survivors, are getting a feel of the situation. They notice the vampires becoming increasingly paranoid, even going to the extent of disarming the survivors. The vampire lord's haste is evident, and Seongwu realizes it's a reaction to the defeat of his minions. Amid the survivor camp, an old player's attention is caught by the sight of werewolves displayed prominently. Jisoo and Hanho, when their turn to disarm comes, find solace knowing their weapons are safely stashed away, thanks to their trustworthy gang member, Young Chick, a skilled 2-star thief. The atmosphere thickens when the vampire lord and his cohort make their grand entrance. Masks hide their identities, but Jisoo and Hanho know the vampire lord's true face. As the vampire lord begins his menacing monologue, declaring vampires the next evolution of humanity, panic grips the survivors. Just when it seems bleakest, Spearman Kyung-soo crashes in with a school bus, creating a breach in the electric fences. Weapons in hand, Jisoo and Hanho swiftly guide survivors to safety. Yet the highlight is Seongwu's entrance, challenging the vampire lord directly, calling him the Mosquito King. The situation escalates. As a werewolf lunges at the vampire lord, it's revealed to be stuffed with goblin corpses. Seongwu detonates them, causing a massive explosion, wounding the vampires and their leader. In a tactical retreat, Seongwu lures the vampires into the raid bus, causing another explosion, decimating a chunk of their forces. Yet, the vampire lord's strength seems undeterred as a red energy emanates from his hand, signaling his recovery. In a chaotic turn of events, Madame Yang is hot on the trail of survivors, with her band of player collaborators in tow. But out of the blue, her collaborators start dropping like flies. She whips around, sensing a dark aura, narrowly avoiding a lethal attack from Jisoo. Sparks fly as both ladies brace themselves, eager for a showdown. Elsewhere, Hanho and Taesong have safely ushered survivors to what they believed was a sanctuary. Yet, as fate would have it, one of the vampire lord's loyal subjects awaits them. Taesong, perhaps out of bravery or folly, lunges at this seemingly weaker vampire. He's met with swift evasion. As the vampire is about to sink his teeth into Taesong, Hanho's daggers come to the rescue. The agile vampire leaps away, only to be struck in the face by another set of Hanho's daggers. Enraged, mostly because of the damage to his flawless visage, the vampire prepares for another round. Meanwhile, Seongwu's battle rages on. The initial explosion had taken out the lesser vampires, but the formidable vampire lord remained. The lord, having quenched his thirst on the blood of a fallen comrade, morphed into a more menacing form. Despite Seongwu's attempts, using orc skeletons and zombies, the vampire lord stands tall. Seongwu's strategy pivots, deploying werewolves to tap into their Cerebrus synergy. But the vampire lord, exuding confidence, deals with the threat with ease. As they fight, the lord taunts Seongwu, telling him about his past as a serial killer, and his belief that the world's transformation into a game was a call for him to ascend as a supreme being. But Seongwu remains unyielding, convinced that today would mark the end for the vampire lord. Just then, a telepathic distress call reaches the vampire lord from a battered Madame Yang. Jisoo, with her hands-on hunting experience, had outmaneuvered her. In a climactic move, Jisoo delivers a critical blow, ending Madame Yang's reign. Back with Hanho and Taesong, the odds seem stacked against them. Their vampire adversary, sensing their desperation, offers them the gift of vampirism, arguing that in this new chaotic world, aligning with a powerful entity like the vampire lord was the smart move. Hanho agrees on the notion of aligning with power, but firmly states his allegiance to Seongwu. Using the distraction of a passing rider, Hanho employs his tactics, and with Taesong and a spearman, they manage to heavily injure the vampire. Just as Hanho's power wanes, Seongwu tosses a goblin his way, and Hanho rejuvenates, revealing that they have a stash of goblins to keep him powered. Together, the players overpower the vampire. The vampire lord, having witnessed his elite's defeat, boils with rage. But Seongwu confidently lists out the vampire's weaknesses. He reveals that he's been utilizing the Devil's Bloodstone item, which drains his health with each strike. The stage is set for a final showdown. The vampire lord starts to feel his strength waning. Someone from the party taunts him, pointing out his fourth weakness. He talks far too much. Instead of relying on his minions, he should have attacked Seongwu directly. Agitated, the vampire lord activates a protective blood field around him and makes a beeline for Seongwu. Righty stands in his way and attempts to attack, but the vampire lord's strike is deflected by Righty's parry skill. Righty then hurls a bottle filled with slime liquid at the vampire lord's face. The impact causes his face to melt, and his vision blurs. The vampire lord has expended too much blood, leaving him without enough regenerative power to heal his eyes. Seongwu directs his minions to finish off the vampire lord. Though blind, the vampire lord can hear them approaching and fights back, but he's in desperate need of blood to regain power. Smelling blood nearby, he moves towards it, targeting the blood of werewolves left as a warning sign. Upon reaching the rooftop, the vampire lord is caught off guard when a werewolf minion stabs him from above. Seongwu mocks him, revealing that he was getting his werewolf supply from that building all along. As the vampire lord crashes to the ground, Seongwu decides to end the battle with a literal bang. A minion tosses the vampire lord into a room filled with monster corpses, and Seongwu detonates the entire building. The explosion finally ends the vampire lord's life. The victory yields a substantial reward for Seongwu: 10,000 gold for killing a special player, an additional 30,000 gold, and a C-rank item ticket from a special quest. His destiny also alters, granting him an exclusive skill. Celebrations are in order the next morning. Among those expressing gratitude to their saviors are familiar faces previously rescued by Seongwu's party. However, the joyful atmosphere is interrupted by the arrival of an entire regiment of soldiers led by Sergeant Kim, who had been observing the fight. Seongwu wonders about their purpose, and Sergeant Kim informs him that the Korean army is still active. He adds that someone wants to meet Seongwu. During the night, Seongwu reflects on his impressive haul from the battle against the vampire lord, including a new skill to create bone armor and a heroic rank-drawn repeating crossbow. Feeling confident yet comfortable in his current situation, he is suddenly jolted by a terrifying dream of his parents burning in a house. Waking up to news that Sergeant Kim and some soldiers have come to see him, Seongwu prepares to meet them but remains shaken by the nightmare. A bald officer named Lieutenant Major Taein Park of the Army's S-1 Division barges in, introducing himself and getting straight to the point. He wants Seongwu to collaborate with them on future missions by joining the army. Seongwu and Righty are somewhat disappointed by the request. When they inquire about the nature of the collaboration, Lieutenant Park explains that they need help reclaiming territory. He also informs them about the prosecutor of Yeondan-po, who has defied government authority, created a renegade group, established the first guild in Korea, and formed a safety zone to restore order. Lieutenant Park's anger builds as he insists that the entire nation should support the army, but Seongwu disagrees, pointing out the government's failure to provide assistance when it was most needed. The confrontation escalates until Seongwu pushes Lieutenant Park away and starts to leave, declaring his readiness to take his chances in the new world without the army's support. Meanwhile, among the survivors there's a feeling of safety with the soldiers around. Jisoo-yoon tells Han-ho that people tend to rely on stable organizations like the military, but she notices that the expressions of the soldiers don't look quite right. Han-ho, being an avid watcher of army movies, can't help but feel in awe of the soldiers. He curiously asks about Private Kwan, whom they met when they were with Sergeant Kim. Getting a classified response, both Jisoo and Han-ho find it odd. Why would details about a regular soldier be so secret? On the other hand, Seongwu has a complicated relationship with the army. He's open to working with them, but Lieutenant Park's arrogance irks him. Then Sergeant Kim comes up to Seongwu, apologizing for Park's behavior. He reveals that the army's situation is dire. They desperately need Seongwu's aid. To convince him, they show him a prophecy stone. These mysterious stones scattered across the globe offer glimpses of potential futures. But not everyone sees the same thing. Seongwu takes the risk, touching it. A horrifying vision emerges. Everyone, including his own team, turned into undead by the Lich King. After this chilling vision, an announcement rings out. Season 2 starts on January 1st, and it seems that what Sergeant Kim witnessed before was quite similar. Now, a new quest pops up for Seongwu. Who is the Master of Death? The goal? Seize the Grim Reaper's scythe and get the Wave of Death skill. But he has to level up before the location is revealed. With Season 2 looming just 2 months away, Seongwu feels the pressure. He doesn't want the Prophecy Stone's vision to come true. When he learns about the boss monsters from Sergeant Kim, he understands that these bosses became active in Season 1. He was busy with the vampires back then, but now, it's a different game. Seongwu negotiates with the army to take down a boss for 100,000 gold. Lieutenant Park's initial reluctance is shut down when the strengths of Seongwu's skeletal army are laid out before him. The airstrip under the boss's control is of strategic importance. With Lieutenant Park's promotion on the line and the safe air travel at stake, the need to reclaim it is paramount. But despite his reservations, Park finally agrees to hire Seongwu. While prepping, they meet Sergeant Kang, a formidable soldier and the sole survivor of a prior boss encounter. Learning of Seongwu's level 10 status shocks him and his comrades. How did Seongwu surpass them? Seongwu coolly suggests tackling stronger foes than mere orcs. Back at Seongwu's camp, the number of survivors grows. Spearman Kyung-soo proposes constructing a town. The non-combatants would build while the fighters protect and hunt. Their dual objective, to boost their gold reserves and military prowess. Despite Kyung-soo's humility in crediting the idea to Seongwu, Han-ho's parents commend him. Kyung-soo, haunted by past decisions leading to his friends' deaths, doubts himself. Yet, Han-ho's father sees leadership qualities in him. As for Seongwu and his team, they're causing a stir in the streets. They're so dominant that even the lower-ranked monsters fear their might. Seongwu's team ventures into a building, stumbling upon a blacksmith's shop. The shop offers Seongwu an intriguing deal. Combine 3 of his legendary items into one, but for a steep 100,000 gold. There's a catch. There's a 2% chance of the combination failing. As Seongwu readies his items, Jisoo begins hoping and praying for a successful merge. The process begins, and the end product is a Chaos Crystal. This powerful artifact enhances the user's mana by 500, boosts their mana regeneration by 250, and even siphons off mana and health during attacks. Hanho and Jisoo excitedly celebrate with Seongwu over his new acquisition. Gijin, intrigued, checks out the shop's offerings for herself. She finds she can merge her fire whetstone with her area blade for a fee of 15,000 gold. After merging, she gets an ignition blade, which sets enemies aflame upon contact. Hanho grumbles, feeling left out as there's nothing in the shop he can combine. Their shopping spree comes to an abrupt halt when they find their next store of interest destroyed. The culprits left a sinister message scrawled on the wall with monster claws, hinting at the rise of a new monster era. They speculate about the possible emergence of intelligent monsters. On their way back to town, they encounter Sergeant Kim. He's amidst a group quest, aiming to boost the defense and attack stats of his platoon. But there's a concern. Even though they've been slaying orcs and goblins consistently, these creatures keep reappearing. Seongwu offers his nearby town as a resting spot for the soldiers. But back at the town, they're met with chaos. Werebears are on the rampage. Spearman Kyung-soo makes a heroic move, blinding a werebear with a swift strike. Yet, another bear corners him. Just in the nick of time, Righty intervenes, chopping off the beast's arm, and Jijin finishes it off. Seongwu takes control, adding the formidable bears to his army. This move grants his party a special Wild Tyrant synergy, which affects both ally and enemy defenses. The morning after, the town is in recovery mode, with the townspeople lauding Kyung-soo's bravery. However, Sergeant Kang arrives, taking a jab at the town's condition. He and Seongwu have a tense exchange, shedding light on the military's internal conflicts and hierarchies. Amidst this tension, Seongwu's mission is clear. He needs to tackle the boss monster and reclaim the airstrip. When they arrive, the airstrip is in disrepair, and despite being forewarned by Sergeant Kim when the giant troll boss appears, it's even more daunting than Seongwu anticipated. The troll charges, but Seongwu's initial counterattack only scratches the beast. This boss doesn't possess any special abilities, but its sheer strength is more than enough to be a formidable opponent. Seongwu and his crew had just heard a deafening roar from the boss. On standby, Hanho and Jisoo were gearing up for their turn against the creature. Elsewhere, the company commander received word from Lieutenant Kang about the rising power of the prosecutor of Yongdong-po. As they continually absorbed smaller survivor groups, the commander wanted to address the public on an online forum to alleviate panic, but Lieutenant Park was hesitant. The higher-ups felt that placing too much trust in this online system could pose a risk to the army. Despite the game's increasing influence in the real world, Park remained skeptical about following its rules. There was also a concerning order from Park. After the boss monster's defeat, Seongwu was to be executed, and Sergeant Kang was to carry out this task. Before that, though, the company commander was to pilfer all of Seongwu's gold and valuable items. Although the commander was discontent with Park's directives, he had little choice but to obey. On the battlefield, Hanho was proving a formidable opponent for the boss. He seemed almost unimpressed by the creature's strength, using his invincible skill to resist damage. The boss was showing signs of fatigue when Jisoo seized the moment to leap and embed her sword in its back. Attached to her sword was an invincible rope. With Hanho's help, they circled and eventually toppled the massive beast, using the rope to bind it. As the boss lay restrained, it was Seongwu's cue. Armed with the Dragon Knight's masterless sword, which a minion handed to him, Seongwu and his crew unleashed a flurry of attacks on the now vulnerable creature. In a cunning move, after one of the orc skeletons was devoured by the boss, Seongwu detonated the stash of dead bodies within the orc's bag. The result? A massive internal explosion. Following this, Seongwu delivered the final blow with the masterless sword, ending the boss's reign of terror. This victory awarded him 220,000 gold, a level up to 11, and other perks including a skill to craft diverse bone weapons. Sergeant Kang, who had been observing in awe, now had the grim task of eliminating Seongwu. But when he attempted a surprise strike, Seongwu deftly countered, revealing he had anticipated the move. Although Kang managed to land a few blows, Seongwu's resourcefulness and skeletal minions overpowered him. Unexpectedly, Sergeant Kim sided with Seongwu, rebelling against Kang's authority. The company commander arrived on the scene, warning the defectors of their folly. But in a shocking turn, an unhinged Kang injected himself with a substance, morphing him into a ferocious tiger-like werebeast. Chaos ensued. The transformed Kang, in his new beastly state, dispatched the company commander. Jisoo engaged the beast, but found herself disarmed and tossed aside. Seongwu, ever the strategist, activated his Cerberus synergy, empowering his minions for the battle against this singular, formidable foe. Seongwu is fuming. Determinedly, he sets his sights on ending things right then and there. With the overwhelming number of his bear minions, they swiftly overpower the were-tiger. In another location, a soldier gives the battalion commander an update, noting that their troops have returned safely. When Sergeant Kim enters the scene, Battalion Commander Park is curious about the mission's outcome. Kim confirms their success against the boss, but reveals that both the company commander and Sergeant Kang didn't survive. Seongwu soon enters, wanting to discuss the ambush by Sergeant Kang. Sergeant Kim, with Seongwu and his skeletal army in tow, makes an entrance at the main military headquarters. The mere sight of the skeletal minions puts the soldiers on edge. Kim hints to his fellow soldiers about an impending freedom. Seongwu wastes no time. He bursts into the building and drags Lieutenant Park into the commander's office. The commander doesn't hide his disappointment in Lieutenant Park, blaming him for not inciting a rebellion. To Seongwu, the commander comes across as a desperate man willing to send his own men to die just to maintain control. The commander boasts about the hidden synergy effect his troops earned for their valor on the apocalypse's first day. This synergy allowed him to command his troops with an iron fist. They couldn't disobey without severe consequences. Seongwu confronts the commander, accusing him of sacrificing his troops just like pawns in a twisted game of survival. He demands answers about the order to kill him. The commander candidly admits his desire to eliminate rogue factions like Seongwu's, fearing they might overthrow the established order. As their conversation grows heated, Seongwu sets an ultimatum. The commander must release his troops from the synergy's grip and hand over all his gold, or he'll take it by force. The scared commander relents, but Seongwu feels shortchanged when he's given just 45,000 gold. The topic of the werebeast vials is broached, but the commander plays coy, revealing he bought them from mysterious peddlers. Suddenly, the atmosphere grows tense. As Seongwu prepares to leave, the commander and another soldier attempt to ambush him. Seongwu deflects their attack and retaliates, eliminating both. But the commander has one last trick, a bomb named Abyss Concentrate, a name familiar to Seongwu. Before anything else can happen, the were-tiger leaps in, finishing the commander. Seongwu notes the commander's pitifully low level and speculates about his gold usage. Inside a locker, Seongwu finds various items, including the werebeast vials, which hint at their mysterious origin. Meanwhile, outside, Jisoo is being treated using Hanho's healing ability. They've opted to use Hanho's skill over precious potions, both to assist wounded soldiers and to level up Hanho's healing prowess. Hanho feels a bit out of place. Even Seongwu's minions seem to view him with disdain. But in a supportive move, Righty pats Hanho on the back, which boosts his confidence. Seongwu approaches, checking in on Jisoo's injuries. She brushes off her encounter with the were-tiger, convinced her class was a match for it. Seongwu comforts her, assuring her that she has the capability to tackle many other monsters solo. He expresses his relief that Hanho has developed a healing skill. With the imminent threat of the Lich King's undead army, Hanho's priest class is invaluable, acting as a natural counter to the undead. Seongwu even suggests that if Hanho plays his cards right, he might one day surpass Seongwu himself. Curious, Hanho questions Seongwu about his intriguing new robe. Seongwu reveals it's the Shadow King's robe, a legendary garment acquired from a troll chest. This robe not only minimizes damage but also conceals the wearer in shadows, a nifty stealth feature. Hanho's spirits dip upon hearing this, lamenting he's yet to get his hands on any legendary items. Sergeant Kim updates Seongwu on the soldiers. Some have set out to find their families, while others are headed to Seongwu's town. A few, stubborn to the end, chose to go solo. Seongwu directs the group towards the town, aware that the clock is ticking. Only 3 days remain in Stage 1. In town, everyone's engrossed in leveling up in dungeon raids. Despite Seongwu's efforts, including wiping out an orc camp, he's stuck at level 12. He acknowledges that his pace has decelerated due to battling weaker monsters. Upon leveling, he he opts for a strength card, boosting his strength by 3. His primary goal? Reach level 15 and secure the Grim Reaper's scythe. A system alert pops up announcing the end of Chapter 1. The double gold event is no more, and the travel restriction between areas is lifted. The new guide introduces players to Chapter 2, hinting at the game's purpose and what lies ahead. Notably, raid boss monsters are on the horizon, even threatening safe zones. Clues about angels and demons emerge as well, signaling a future update. Seongwu identifies 2 key points in this update: raid bosses and the introduction of angels or demons. But before he can delve deeper, Manhwa brings a discovery to his attention. Her ranking for the Korean server has been published on the mobile app, and Seongwu ranks 3rd. But what intrigues him more is the player in the top spot, also stuck at level 12, causing Seongwu to speculate about his gaming prowess. Jisoo points out an anomaly. The 4th and 5th rankers seem to belong to the same group, raising questions. Manhwa directs Seongwu to an online forum, where the 2nd-ranked player, a prosecutor from Yeongdong-po, has openly expressed a desire to meet Seongwu. This prosecutor helms Korea's most substantial survival community and hopes to recruit Seongwu to their cause, unearthing the game's truths. Although tempted, Seongwu senses there's more to the prosecutor's invitation than meets the eye. Elsewhere, the prosecutor and his guild are in action, dispatching monsters. With travel restrictions lifted, there's a push to expand. However, a female hunter advises caution due to the looming threats of raid bosses, angels, and demons. The prosecutor rallies his team, reminding them of their duty to save humanity and counteract its annihilation. Though they initially tried to recruit the elusive top player, their focus shifts to Seongwu. In this chaotic world, reputable players like Seongwu are gold. The backdrop is one of mistrust and hidden agendas, making every alliance crucial. Online forums are buzzing with praises for Seongwu, and his popularity has skyrocketed, overshadowing the prosecutor. Sensing a potential threat to their future plans, the prosecutor feels an urgency to meet Seongwu. "Hey," Seongwu replied to our post. The female player notifies the prosecutor. "We're heading to Hwasong Fortress in Suwon first thing tomorrow. Get everyone ready," orders the prosecutor. While the prosecutor's crew preps for the journey, Seongwu gathers his group. "We got to see the prosecutor. I've got important intel and I need advice on leveling up. We can't let the lich get the best of us." Suddenly, the Taesong biker gang storms in. Taesong explains how some strange attackers abducted his friend, Yongsik. They were searching for something called the Golden Deer. Upon realizing Taesong's group was clueless about it, they turned hostile. Jisoo speculates, might be outlaws from another region. Once they question Yongsik, they'll learn about our town. Seongwu, decisive as always, instructs Taesong to lead them to these bandits. At the bandits' hideout, they're torturing Yongsik, trying to extract info. Just as things turn dire, Seongwu's team bursts in, saving the day. One of the bandits, lecherously eyeing Jisoo, demands they hand her over. Angered, Jisoo battles fiercely, showcasing her impressive combat skills, and the situation rapidly turns in their favor. In the midst of the chaos, talk of the mysterious Golden Deer reemerges. It's rumored to reward players with valuable items. Lo and behold, a golden deer appears nearby, initiating a hidden quest. Seongwu, using his abilities, sends his summoned creatures after it. The deer is cunning, but Seongwu's werewolves eventually capture it, granting Seongwu a piece of a coveted ticket. However, something feels off to Seongwu. One werewolf, instead of attacking, chose to flee. His instincts tell him this isn't typical werewolf behavior. Back in town, anticipation is high. The prosecutor's impending visit is the talk of the town. To everyone's surprise, he arrives via helicopter, seemingly undeterred by the dangers of wyverns. Seongwu and the prosecutor finally meet face to face. The prosecutor, known as Zong Chinch, comes across as charismatic, leaving many in town utterly smitten. In a private setting, Prosecutor Chinch shares his story with Seongwu, the loss of his parents to monsters and his drive to avenge their deaths. He's assembled a vast group of survivors in Yeongdong-po, but many are vulnerable, children or the elderly. This, he says, is why he needs powerful allies like Seongwu, and that's where our tale pauses for now. If you're eager to see what happens next in this gripping saga, smash that like button, and drop a comment below with the word Orcshield if you're ready for the next chapter. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out. Catch you in the next video. Online forums are buzzing with praises for Seongwu, and his popularity has skyrocketed, overshadowing the prosecutor. Sensing a potential threat to their future plans, the prosecutor feels an urgency to meet Seongwu. "Hey," Seongwu replied to our post. The female player notifies the prosecutor. "We're heading to Hwasong Fortress in Suwon first thing tomorrow. Get everyone ready," orders the prosecutor. While the prosecutor's crew preps for the journey, Seongwu gathers his group. "We've got to see the prosecutor. I've got important intel, and I need advice on leveling up. We can't let the Lich get the best of us." Suddenly, the Taesong biker gang storms in. Taesong explains how some strange attackers abducted his friend, Yongsik. They were searching for something called the Golden Deer. Upon realizing Taesong's group was clueless about it, they turned hostile. Jisoo speculates, might be outlaws from another region. Once they question Yongsik, they'll learn about our town. Seongwu, decisive as always, instructs Taesong to lead them to these bandits. At the bandits' hideout, they're torturing Yongsik, trying to extract info. Just as things turn dire, Seongwu's team bursts in, saving the day. One of the bandits, lecherously eyeing Jisoo, demands they hand her over. Angered, Jisoo battles fiercely, showcasing her impressive combat skills, and the situation rapidly turns in their favor. In the midst of the chaos, talk of the mysterious Golden Deer re-emerges. It's rumored to reward players with valuable items. Lo and behold, a golden deer appears nearby, initiating a hidden quest. Seongwu, using his abilities, sends his summoned creatures after it. The deer is cunning, but Seongwu's werewolves eventually capture it, granting Seongwu a piece of a coveted ticket. However, something feels off to Seongwu. One werewolf, instead of attacking, chose to flee. His instincts tell him this isn't typical werewolf behavior. Back in town, anticipation is high. The prosecutor's impending visit is the talk of the town. To everyone's surprise, he arrives via helicopter, seemingly undeterred by the dangers of wyverns. Seongwu and the prosecutor finally meet face to face. The prosecutor, known as Zong Chinch, comes across as charismatic, leaving many in town utterly smitten. In a private setting, Prosecutor Chinch shares his story with Seongwu, the loss of his parents to monsters and his drive to avenge their deaths. He's assembled a vast group of survivors in Yongdong-po, but many are vulnerable, children or the elderly. This, he says, is why he needs powerful allies like Seongwu. Chinch then reveals something unexpected, a prophecy stone. Seongwu touches it, and visions flood his senses. He sees the future destruction of Yodo Island, where a monstrous world tree emerges, its roots hunting players. The prophecy hints at a disastrous event if they can't thwart the fallen ones who aim to plant this destructive seed. "We have to prevent this catastrophe together," says Prosecutor Chinch, emphasizing the presence of a formidable boss on Yodo Island. The stakes are high, and time is of the essence. The prosecutor and Seongwu are now brimming with determination, knowing that the fate of their world hangs in the balance. They agree that they need to raid the boss as quickly as possible. Seongwu agrees to a temporary alliance with the prosecutor, but he's hesitant to reveal information about the Lich King. He's afraid that if the Grim Reaper's scythe isn't obtained, it could lead to tragedy, or maybe the prosecutor would kill him thinking it would cancel the exclusive quest. The two of them decide that they will not join each other's guilds, but will share the raid rewards equally. Just as they're about to shake hands, Hanho bursts into the room with urgent news that raiders are heading toward their town. The prosecutor sees this as an opportunity to demonstrate their guild's strength. Seongwu is informed that the prosecutor has a Crusader commander class, allowing him to form a powerful synergy with knights. The raiders soon spot Seongwu's party, and their leader, furious about the death of his men, swears to massacre the whole town. The prosecutor coolly analyzes the situation and directs his crusaders to charge. The raiders try to fend them off with ranged attacks, but the prosecutor forms a shield, absorbing the blows. As the battle heats up, trucks and legendary vortex blades are thrown, but the prosecutor's skill and weaponry prove superior. People in town are hiding, including Hanho's father and spearman Kyung-soo, who sneak out to watch the fight. The crusaders seem to be in trouble after being knocked out by poison gas, and the raider leader boasts about his abyss concentrate. But Seongwu takes control, revealing his third-ranked necromancer power from the Korean server. His minions begin to wreak havoc, causing the raider leader to regret picking a fight with them. The battle continues, with Seongwu showing off his new power from the abyss concentrate, and the female player explaining that the prosecutor's defense boost comes from his knights. Despite this, Seongwu and Jisoo are skeptical, believing Hanho to have the world's highest defense. The raid escalates as the raider leader takes hostages, only for Jisoo to block them with her skill. The bandit leader is too late to realize his mistake, and Seongwu stabs him from behind. The other half of the golden deer ticket is received as a reward, completing Seongwu's quest. A notification appears, telling Seongwu that he'll be teleported to a hidden stage. The prosecutor attempts to follow but is stopped by the system for lacking a ticket. One of his underlings starts comparing Seongwu to the prosecutor, but the latter shuts down the conversation, though he seems somewhat jealous. The agreements between Seongwu and the prosecutor are clear: cooperation but no guild joining. The rewards will be shared equally. Seongwu's hesitance to reveal certain information adds complexity to their relationship. The fight with the raiders showcases both their strengths and the prosecutor's Crusader Commander class. The battle is intense, with the raider leader using poison gas and legendary weapons, yet Seongwu's power as a necromancer turns the tide. The excitement in town and the tension with potential hostages add depth to the scene. The conclusion with the golden deer ticket sets up a new adventure, leaving the prosecutor curious and perhaps a bit envious. The prosecutor, curious about the mysterious gate Seongwu entered, tries to coax the information out of Jisoo, but she's not spilling anything. All this while, the prosecutor has been subtly manipulating everyone around him with his War Hero Aura passive skill. This aura makes him likable and commands respect, especially working wonders on low-level players or those feeling anxious. Yet Jisoo remains unaffected. In stark contrast, Hanho seems entirely under its spell and nearly spills the beans, but Jisoo silences him just in time. The prosecutor, trying a different approach, mentions he's just concerned for Seongwu's safety. Jisoo, worried now, reveals the gate's secret. It's an entrance to a hidden stage. The prosecutor, appreciating her honesty, compliments Jisoo on her exceptional sword skills and extends an offer for her to join the Liberation Guild. However, she declines without a second thought. Even Hanho seems interested, but Jisoo swiftly pulls him away. Most folks easily fall under the sway of the prosecutor's aura. He finds it intriguing that Jisoo doesn't. Elsewhere, inside the gate, Seongwu encounters a hidden stage. An alert informs him of potential rewards, and even if he fails, he'll return to the real world safely. Suddenly, he's surrounded by overconfident, gold-hued goblins. Unfazed, Seongwu summons his trusty minions and sets them on these brash creatures. Back outside, the Liberation Guild is tending to the wounded. Regular healing potions are proving ineffective against a particular curse. Only antidotes seem to work. This baffles the prosecutor. Why was Seongwu unaffected by such a potent curse? His associate, sporting a 3-star scouter skill, informs him that, interestingly, Seongwu actually got buffed during the fight due to the curse. The prosecutor grows curious about Seongwu's nonchalance towards an ominous prophecy and instructs a female guild member to investigate any previous encounters Seongwu may have had with the so-called prophecy stone. Inside the hidden realm, Seongwu's minions wreak havoc. He reanimates some golden orcs and observes they're slightly more formidable than those in the human world. However, they're no match for him. Unrestrained and with no allies to watch out for, Seongwu feels invincible. A choice presents itself: a bigger treasure with more danger or a safer, smaller one. Feeling cocky, he chooses the former. But things take a turn. The treasure chest morphs into a ferocious mimic boss monster. Underestimating its capabilities, Seongwu finds himself in a bind. He longs for his team, usually making him more cautious. In a perilous moment, with the mimic about to devour him, Seongwu's minions intervene, holding the creature at bay. Seongwu counters with a strategic move, detonating zombies within the mimic, successfully defeating it. The explosion also affects his minions, but the victory earns him significant points for completing a high-ranked mission. Post-battle, Seongwu learns the mimic's external shell is impervious to damage. It's a valuable lesson in always staying alert. Proceeding to the next room, he discovers a trove of exclusive lockers. Unlockable with his freshly earned points, these contain rare items. Seongwu selects an oath parchment, a unique item allowing players to form a binding pledge. This pledge, once set with conditions by both players, has dire consequences if broken: death. Seongwu, after completing the hidden stage, chooses 3 more C-rank items. These include an upgrade stone, a strength upgrade vial, and an experience card, which leads to Seongwu leveling up to 13. His stats are given a boost, and he's rewarded with 150,000 gold. He also picks a guaranteed 3-point agility card, thinking that if he'd had more agility, he could have outrun the mimic earlier. Suddenly, a portal to the real world appears, and Seongwu heads through it. He meets up with the prosecutor again, apologizing for wasting his time. As a gift, the prosecutor hands Seongwu some potions and then suggests they announce their alliance to the public. He wants to post a picture of the two of them with their contract online. One of the prosecutor's guild members, who happens to be skilled in photography, is equipped to post the picture on the online forum. The prosecutor explains that people need heroes like Seongwu and that it's essential for his positive image, even though it might make him an easy target. Seongwu agrees. The prosecutor departs with his guild, and Jisoo tells Seongwu that they need to grind for more levels before the raid, a suggestion with which Seongwu concurs. The next day, while hunting with the method of using rancid wolf meat to attract monsters, Seongwu's party quickly gains experience. The meat, a failed recipe from Hanho's mom, smells terrible, so Seongwu tells him to put it away. Thanks to Hanho's father's new Korean sentry skill, they don't have to worry about the town's safety anymore. Suddenly, Taesong arrives with his biker gang and informs Seongwu about a destroyed store in Hangnam. Seongwu takes this seriously, realizing the gravity of the problem. He orders guards to be placed in every store they find to prevent further issues. After some light conversation about how Taesong's female friends now view Seongwu as a brute, Taesong leaves, and Seongwu prepares to grind levels. An alarm rings in Jisoo's head about incoming danger, and werewolves burst onto the scene. Seongwu's minions try to hold them back, but the werewolves go wild after smelling the rancid meat. They grab Hanho's bag and start eating like crazed animals. As Seongwu's party surrounds the werewolves, he asks them why they shouldn't shoot. The werewolves are scared, and their leader rushes in to save them. He manages to hold off Seongwu's attack, allowing 2 of his companions to escape, but is captured. Seongwu commends the werewolf leader for his camaraderie and learns why they attacked. The smell of the meat drove them mad. The werewolf also shares information about a group called the Mad Scientists, who are working with other monsters to create dangerous items and destroy stores. Seongwu thanks the werewolf for the information but tells him that his friends won't be coming back to rescue him. The werewolf, who has a tragic backstory involving his son in a class election, wishes Seongwu and his party luck before being stabbed by Seongwu. Feeling bad for the werewolves but understanding the danger they pose, Seongwu tells his party to get ready to pursue the 2 escapees. They need more information about the werebeast's territory. As they search for the werewolves, they overhear voices and discover that both werewolves have been captured by a group of creatures called kobolds. One suggests making sausages from the wolves, but their leader says not to eat them as their presents for their queen. The new information and the mention of the queen add further intrigue to their quest, as Seongwu's party continues on their journey. Seongwu and his pals watch in astonishment as a kobold repeatedly jabs the werewolves with spears laced with a paralyzing toxin. Once paralyzed, the kobolds haul the werewolves back to their lair. The group can't believe that low-level creatures like the kobolds could subdue 2 powerful werewolves. When they find out there's a shop in this dungeon which remains intact, Seongwu rallies his crew, emphasizing the importance of securing it for their community's survival. Suddenly, a notification pops up. They're in the venomous Spider Queen Chambers, a notorious dungeon that's claimed 124 players. On top of that, they'd earn a bonus for clearing it. Hanho's anxiety is palpable, especially since they didn't bring any live goblins. As they delve deeper, horrifying sights greet them. People wrapped in webs, crying for help. Jisoo quickly employs her Firestore technique, slashing the webs and freeing the trapped players. But as one player gives his thanks, spiders burst forth from his mouth, killing him. Seongwu reacts by exploding the now-deceased players to exterminate the spiders, but the commotion grabs the attention of kobolds who appear to be in cahoots with the spiders. The fight escalates. Hanho springs into action. Once he throws a knife and takes out a creature, his power spikes, and he goes into a berserk mode. The sight of Hanho in this state terrifies even the monsters, who see him as a true demon. They desperately try to entangle him with spider webs. After several attempts, they succeed in immobilizing the enraged Hanho. With Hanho trapped, Seongwu uses his unique skill to detonate dead bodies, causing massive damage. After battling hordes of creatures, they clear the area and recall that this subway connects to a mall. They speculate that the queen could be there. They sweep through the mall, and right when they're about to enter what appears to be the boss room, another notification appears, reiterating the danger and offering a reward for backing out. Hanho and Jisoo plead with Seongwu to reconsider, but he insists they face this challenge to prepare for even more daunting ones ahead. Inside, they're greeted not by a spider, but by a kobold shaman, who, to their surprise, speaks fluent human. The reason? He's consumed 20 human brains. As they process this, the ground trembles and the giant venomous spider queen emerges. In a shocking turn, the kobold shaman and the spider queen merge, combining their strengths. With the shaman as the brain and the queen as the body, they become a formidable opponent. The battle intensifies. The spider queen's steel webs prove a challenge, but Jisoo's ignition sword burns through them. However, every time they make progress, the kobold shaman counters. It becomes clear that this boss battle will be their toughest yet. Seongwu, realizing the potential of his surroundings, resurrects the numerous dead monsters the queen had captured previously. He tells the kobold shaman that their feeding time is done, hinting that he has a master plan involving his necromancer abilities. Amidst the chaotic battlefield, Seongwu's freshly resurrected minions made a beeline towards the towering spider queen. With swift strikes from her legs, the queen cleaved several of them. Yet, one ambitious minion managed to slice into one of her legs. Annoyed, the spider queen spat venom, only to realize it had no effect. These minions were mere bone structures without any flesh. The kobold shaman, catching on quickly, advised the queen to hold back her venom. Despite her power, the continuous barrage from the werewolf-based minions left her rattled. Making matters worse, most of the fallen in the room were formidable beasts. The queen's preferred meal. Suddenly, the two bosses aimed straight for Seongwu. The spider queen hurled herself at him with fierce intent. Seongwu defended with bone shields that he conjured one after the other. Although one of the queen's strikes landed, Seongwu gritted his teeth, resisting the pain, determined not to falter. The ever-aggravated kobold shaman, meanwhile, fended off the nagging minions, eventually torching them with a fireball. The shaman's cunning was evident. With each passing moment, he adapted, growing smarter. Seongwu's minions dashed towards the shaman, who, with a smirk, erected a protective force field using his air boon skill. Just when the shaman was starting to gloat over his perceived victory, Jisoo stealthily lunged from behind. Her attack, however, was thwarted by the swift defense of the spider queen's legs. Meanwhile, Hanho, with a horde of zombies, revealed a secret strategy he and Jisoo had cooked up. To mock Hanho, the shaman labeled him weak, yet, curiously, the queen seemed hesitant. The ace up Hanho's sleeve? A dish of pungent rancid meat. Turns out he had been prepping this delicacy, and both the spider queen and the shaman were powerless to its allure. Zombies, loaded with more of this rancid meat, were too tempting for the queen. Sensing the perfect moment, Seongwu bade a sarcastic farewell to the shaman and triggered a colossal explosion via the zombies. Elsewhere, Prosecutor, upon cleaving a formidable boss monster in twain, was momentarily basking in his victory. Though he commanded Korea's top guild, a looming question plagued him. How did Gang So-kan reach the top rank? His anxiety was further fueled when his scout announced a shift in rankings. Seongwu, it seems, had leapfrogged to second place. The revelation left Prosecutor seething. Back at the main battle, though battered, the goblin shaman clung to life. But not for long. Hanho, with a swift throw, ended the shaman's existence, earning them a whopping 300,000 gold. But the spider queen wasn't done. She lunged at Hanho, only to be met with a fatal blow to the eye by Righty. The reward? A boost in levels for Seongwu and an increased rank for Righty, making him more formidable. Seongwu's gains didn't stop there. On leveling up, he drew a card that granted him 2 more minions. With newfound confidence, they set out to find the elusive C-rank store inside the dungeon. Resembling a slot machine, this store had gold, platinum, and diamond tiers. To claim a reward, they needed 3 matching icons. Hanho, never a fan of gambling and notoriously unlucky, grumbled about their odds. Yet, to everyone's surprise, it was Hanho who first struck gold, winning a legendary magic scroll. This item allowed a player a chance at a random skill, albeit with a 50% chance of failure. Jisoo, tired of the game, eventually walked away. But Seongwu? He was all in. His persistence paid off when he secured a legendary item, the Shadow King's Ring. This powerful relic bolstered his agility, health, and even conjured a formidable shadow clone. To top it off, a new quest was set before him, to collect all relics of the Shadow King and earn the coveted Shadow King's crown. Jisoo came up empty-handed, so Seongwu kindly passed on to her the Wind Spirit's bracelet. Afterward, they went back to town to fill everyone in about the new features in the system shops. Over the next few days, Seongwu and his crew made it their mission to optimize the town's system. Excitedly, they got ready to set off for the raid. Just as they were about to leave, Hanho shared with Seongwu some news about a fresh addition to the app, a broadcasting station feed. Currently, a live stream was on, and Jisoo speculated that it might just be a test since they were only seeing an office interior. Seongwu quickly realized the potential of this feature, suspecting that the ambitious prosecutor would exploit it to draw more supporters to his guild. The very fact that Seongwu advanced to level 14 before prosecutor had thrown a spanner in the works. Now Seongwu figured the prosecutor would keep a closer eye on him. Thankfully, he had an oath parchment, a prize from a hidden stage, which he believed would prove useful soon. A helicopter soon touched down to whisk them away. Introducing himself as the lieutenant of the Crusader team, Minho-san greeted them. Curious, Seongwu inquired about the risks of flying amidst wyverns. Minho's confident reply, "The Liberation Guild made anything possible. They even had members across Seoul, tracking each wyvern's path in real time." Seongwu silently acknowledged the advantages of being part of a large guild. Out of the blue, a notification popped up. Their raid group had been given a unique quest. It was competitive in nature, and they'd have to conquer the raid boss independently to snag a special item. It would be a friendly competition among several groups. Interestingly, the final boss, Lizard Man Warlord, would be granted a buff called the Gladiator's Blessing, which reduced damage by 90%. However, in a one-on-one combat, the buff would be disabled. The victor who managed to take down the boss solo would also gain a special title. Reading this, Minho seemed surprised, as this wasn't part of their initial plan. He remained confident though, thinking his sister or the prosecutor could handle it. Hanho chuckled, noting the similarities between the two. To Seongwu, this challenge was unexpected. Traditionally, raid bosses required collective efforts, not solo duels. He was certain they were being washed. After all the hard work they put in, the sudden twist made their challenge steeper. The player guidebook had an update from the prosecutor. It mentioned 12 distinct groups, totaling 1,000 players, participating in the Yoido Island raid. The event would be live-streamed. The Prosecutor's Liberation Guild had bigger plans post this raid. They aimed to hunt monsters across Korea and eventually worldwide. This announcement was met with joy by most, but some argued that the higher-ranked Seongwu should be spearheading the mission. Upon their arrival at the raid's location, the prosecutor personally greeted Seongwu. While Seongwu admired the organization of the place, he couldn't help but notice a camera. He had a hunch that the prosecutor aimed to enhance his public image through the live broadcast of the raid. Suddenly, a player, accompanied by his 31-member elite team, started badmouthing Seongwu, who was there with only 2 allies. Seongwu smelled a setup, suspecting the prosecutor and this purple-haired man, introduced as Gang Yoon Lee, planned this confrontation. Gang Yoon Lee, a renowned fire sorcerer and leader of a survivors group, was quite a topic of discussion in app forums. However, Seongwu warned him to watch his tone, emphasizing that this was a raid, not a skirmish. Inside, in the meeting room, various group leaders congregated. Minho-san, introducing herself as the deputy lieutenant of the Crusaders, updated everyone on the escalated difficulty of the raid and the amplified rewards. Although uncertain of the specifics, they contemplated converting items' values to gold and distributing it equally among the 12 leaders. Everyone seemed to be on board instantly. However, Seongwu noticed the strings being pulled. Almost all the leaders had ties to the Liberation Guild. It appeared the spoils of their raid would predominantly fill the guild's coffers, leaving Seongwu with just a fraction. Minho poses a question. Does anyone have alternate suggestions? Seongwu swiftly lifts his hand in objection to her proposal. This quest pushes players to confront the boss individually. Shouldn't the one who risks everything to bring it down get superior rewards? Song pointedly reminds him, "Weren't you the one championing equal distribution?" Seongwu retorts, "I said fair, not equal." The reality is many of these players, given their lower levels, wouldn't last a minute against that boss alone. One leader, visibly irked, challenges Seongwu to a duel. It's Ansaku, proudly known as the Iron Fist, ranked 11th, famed for his bare-knuckle monster brawls. Seongwu coolly advises him to take a seat, warning that things could go south for Ansaku if things got too heated. The room's tension skyrockets. Ansaku's anger is palpable, but prosecutor's forceful table slam redirects everyone's attention. "I'm siding with Seongwu on this," he states firmly. Night falls, and the environment gets tenser. As a group of lizardmen aim to ambush a player, Ansaku fights them off, fiercely dispatching them with his powerful fists. But more of these creatures loom in the shadows. Just as they lunged, a sudden eruption of fireballs annihilated them. Gunhan, stepping out from the shadows, warns Ansaku, emphasizing these lizardmen's potency. But Ansaku's confidence remains unwavering. While this unfolds, a helicopter is spotted approaching Yoido Park. The initial thought? It's coverage for the prosecutor. But Gunhan? He quickly corrects that assumption, hinting at the necromancer's movement towards the boss's chamber in the same park. Among those tailing, Seongwu is Myung-soo Yang, a level 11 armored archer, known more for his sycophantic tendencies. In his mind, with the 11 other teams supporting prosecutor, Seongwu was bound to fail, but witnessing Seongwu's team in action crushed his assumptions. Jisoo's ignition sword was tearing through enemies, while Hanho showcased a defense that seemed impenetrable. Even more impressive was Seongwu's new synergy with his armor-equipped minions. Remembering the Crusaders' similar synergy, Myung-soo couldn't help but feel a twinge of envy. Seongwu, sensing their need, offers armor to Myung-soo and his gang. Although initially rebuffed, Seongwu still gears them up. Their reservations fade as they feel the armor's benefits, and Seongwu's synergy amplifies with each added unit. They proceed with Myung-soo guiding them towards Yoido Station and the subsequent park holding the boss room. Seongwu observes the rising water levels with apprehension, knowing the lurking lizardman threats within. Myung-soo suggests cooperation with other teams, but Seongwu simply nods to Hanho and Jisoo to step back, launching his Werebeer minions into the waters, causing a massive detonation. The aftermath? A heap of gold from the lizardmen they obliterated. A helicopter lands nearby, its camera focused on Seongwu. The footage, he reckons, would inspire the survivors. Watching, the viewers become vocal supporters of Seongwu. Amidst this, an urgent call comes in from the Crusaders. Manhwa Song's voice, laced with fury, warns Seongwu of impending consequences. As the helicopter veers away, Seongwu's party senses other teams advancing. Reaching the boss room, it resembles a dense jungle. Their surroundings shake violently as a bright beam pierces from the northern woods. A prompt pops up. Riot boss Lizard Man Warlord has appeared, reducing damage from concentrated attacks by 90%. Whoever bests him in solo combat earns a special title. As multiple helicopters move towards the boss, Seongwu's suspicion grows. He thinks, was prosecutor merely letting us do the legwork, only to swoop in for the final glory? The prosecutor is tougher than they expected, and he's aiming straight for the boss, ignoring the surrounding monsters. Hanho, curious about what comes next, asks Seongwu for the plan. Seongwu's answer is simple: they have to battle through these monsters. His minions are making a path, but suddenly, a green light gleams from his clothing. It's his C-rank card, which he can consume for a massive experience boost. This means he can level up to 15 and unlock his first stage, Awakening. Seongwu was happy with his Grim Reaper's scythe find, and he goes ahead to use the experience card. But then, Hanho and Jisoo rush over, faces filled with worry. A flash of light, and Seongwu wakes up in a strange realm, much like the Prophecy Stone. A bright light reveals a figure, and a system message tells him he's the one to control death and must find the Grim Reaper's scythe. An exclusive quest, Who is the Master of Death Part 2, pops up, promising the first stage, Awakening, if successful. The stakes are high. If he doesn't get stronger, he could lose to the Lich King. The light being seems familiar and calm, but communicates in an unknown language. Another message appears, hinting that Seongwu will soon witness death directly. Suddenly, he's back with Hanho and Jisoo, who tell him he disappeared for 10 seconds. Seongwu now knows this was not a mere vision, but a real physical journey and an actual quest from the mysterious being. He hopes not to witness the death of a friend. They hear an explosion near the boss monster, and Seongwu informs his team that they're going after the boss. Seongwu orders Myung-soo to fall back, and they rush toward the boss. A helicopter crash involving the Crusaders follows, leaving only the pilot dead, thanks to the prosecutor's quick thinking. As 17,000 people watch, the prosecutor's team faces hordes of lizard men. The boss monster appears, deflecting arrows and even slashing two crusaders in half. The prosecutor bravely challenges the lizard man warlord to a duel. They clash, the prosecutor's speed against the warlord's massive weapon. A fierce battle ensues, blows exchanged, with a helicopter crew capturing every moment. Gang Yoon Lee and An Saku make their appearance, and skeletons in the distance hint at Seongwoo's arrival. A crossfire skill from the prosecutor pushes the boss back, but the evil smile on the boss's face suggests something's wrong. Furious, the prosecutor readies to finish him off. The lizard man warlord breathes fire, but is blocked by a force field skill. The true boss monster, Wandering Drake, emerges after shedding its skin, ushering in Phase 2 of the battle. The fight takes a dangerous turn. This new monster is stronger than anticipated, and the prosecutor feels his bones rattle with the force of just one blocked attack. The situation is intense, the stakes are high, and the truth about the Wandering Drake is only now becoming clear. All of this is happening with the looming notion that Seongwu must soon face a grim reality related to death. The fight against the true boss monster has only just begun, and the outcome remains uncertain. Wandering Drake lunges at the prosecutor, his tail sword slashing through the air. It lands a direct hit, causing shockwaves of damage. The audience gasps. Tears flood Manhwa Song's eyes, believing the prosecutor's end is near and the raid will be a disaster. But just as the Drake prepares to feast on the prosecutor, a lizard man's corpse is hurled at him, exploding on impact. Seongwoo's skeletal minions descend, bashing the Drake's head with their bone weapons. Bear-like creatures latch onto the beast, beating it fiercely. As the Drake roars in defiance, Seongwu lands a decisive blow, plunging the masterless sword into its skull. Cheers erupt from his hometown, watching the live stream. But Manhwa Song's only thought is the safety of the prosecutor, not the rewards. Suddenly, the Drake's bleeding head signals a new threat. The beast isn't defeated. Vines erupt from it, signifying a transformation. As it reshapes, a system alert identifies it. The hidden raid boss, young host of the seed. Despite Seongwoo's efforts, the island remains locked until this new menace falls. Frustrated, Seongwoo mutters about the system's unpredictable whims. But there's no time for complaints. Waves of frenzied lizard men charge. Seongwoo's confidence lies in Hanho and Jisoo handling the horde, but the real issue is the evolving boss. The beast releases a fiery assault. Seongwoo blocks it, but many, including crusaders and lizard men, are incinerated. Seongwoo's attempts to retaliate prove futile. His bear allies dwindle, falling to the relentless flames. Chaos unfolds. The newly revived lizard men turn on the boss. Seongwoo shouts retreat orders, urging everyone to scatter. In the fray, Hanho discovers the fallen prosecutor. As he tries to help, the boss lurks menacingly behind. They're almost devoured when Righty's blade intervenes, slicing at the creature. Suddenly, a shadow version of Seongwoo strikes, jamming a spear into the monster's eye. Enraged, the boss lashes out, severing the shadow's arm. But it's a mere decoy, evaporating instantly. The real Seongwoo emerges, urging Hanho to flee. The deceptive attack, spawned from Seongwoo's Shadow King's ring, inflicted minimal harm, only stoking the monster's fury. As it rampages, Jisoo launches a surprise counter. Seongwoo's frustration peaks. He told them to scatter. But she's adamant they'll confront this menace together. With renewed resolve, Seongwoo summons undead warriors. The boss decimates them swiftly, prompting Seongwoo to detonate the remains. Despite backup from summoned minions, Seongwoo realizes the scale of their challenge. The boss isn't ingesting any minions, so internal sabotage is off the table. While Seongwoo reanimates lizard foes slain by Hanho and Jisoo, they're dispatched too swiftly to make an impact. The trio regroups as the beast readies another fiery onslaught, standing defiantly together against the mounting threat. The monstrous boss unleashes a torrent of fire. Seongwoo, summoning all his strength, raises a bone shield to defend himself. Although he survives the fiery onslaught, his minions aren't so lucky. Feeling the weight of exhaustion, Seongwoo can barely brace himself as the boss lunges for another strike. Hanho, in a brave attempt, steps forward to block, but the powerful tail swing of the boss shatters his holy force field. Suddenly, Righty steps in. His sword shatters on impact with the boss, prompting him to snatch up the boss's own weapon. With swift precision, Righty slices off the creature's tail. But as the beast retaliates, Righty shoves Hanho out of harm's way, offering a heartbreaking farewell before being crushed to pieces. Grief and rage consume Hanho, but before he can act, the rare tiger seizes him and Jisoo. Seongwu, battered but resolute, pleads with Hanho to persevere to live. As the tiger speeds them away from the chaos, Seongwu prepares for a final showdown, conjuring both a bone sword and shield. With each clashing strike, hope wanes as Manhwa Song and her crew realize that Seongwu is their last beacon of hope. And then the beast's tail sweeps, crippling Seongwu's legs. As the boss inhales for another fiery burst, Seongwu, pinned and helpless, recalls the tragic demise of his parents in a blaze, resigned to a similar fate. The flames consume him, leaving Hanho, Jisoo, and the prosecutor devastated. Suddenly, Seongwu finds himself in an otherworldly realm. He's greeted by the Grim Reaper, whose taunts about Seongwu's age and demise are soon cut short. The Reaper's face reveals a shocking twist. It's Seongwu's father. A torrent of emotions floods Seongwu: guilt, longing, confusion. He grapples with memories of fleeing their burning home as a child, believing he abandoned his parents. Yet his father reveals a different truth. Seongwu wasn't a coward. On that fateful night, his father had urged him to flee, choosing their son's safety over their own. Embracing this newfound clarity and the love of a father he thought he'd lost, Seongwu receives a gift, a scythe, symbolizing his completion of the Master of Death quest. Along with the weapon, he gains new abilities and a tweaked destiny. Back in the real world, chaos reigns. Jisoo and Hanho mourn Seongwu, struggling to accept his loss. The prosecutor, waking from unconsciousness, feels a wave of guilt. He blames himself for underestimating Seongwu, the raid's mightiest player. As Manhwa Song approaches him, he mistakenly believes Hanho saved him, not her. Resolved to right his wrongs, the prosecutor vows to protect Hanho and Jisoo. As they retreat, the sky ominously darkens, signaling a new threat has awakened in their vicinity. From the skies above, Song observes a mysterious green glow piercing through a thick black fog. It originates from Seongwu, who now possesses eerie, lich-like features. Manhwa and her team fear that he's morphed into a monstrous lich after perishing in battle. A notification pings Seongwu, informing him of his revival as a unique necromancer. He's now in a temporary powered-up state for 31 days after unlocking his first awakening. Not only can he summon the formidable Grim Reaper for an hour each day and morph into a lich, but he can also bolster his horde with gargantuan creatures. To top it off, as the 9th player to reach this level, he's granted a special store coupon. Seongwu's new Grim Reaper Realm skill boosts his minion count by 50, while his stats get a 10-point boost. He's got the power to revive and heal his undead minions without any limits. Now feeling empowered, he confronts the formidable Drake boss, warning it of his enhanced might. He resurrects his fallen skeleton army, including Raidi, much to the awe of Hanho and Jisoo, who recognize the telltale signs of Seongwu's signature skill. Seeing their resurrected friend, the crew's emotions range from jubilation to shock and fear. Jisoo assures Hanho that Seongwu isn't a monster. He's merely wielded the Grim Reaper's scythe post-awakening. The battle intensifies. The Drake boss spews fire, devastating most of Seongwu's army. But with his new skill, they rise once more. The sight of the repeatedly resurrecting minions energizes Manhwa Song's crew. As the boss unleashes another fiery onslaught, Seongwu's shield braces for impact. Just when the flames threaten to engulf the prosecutor and his allies, Raidi executes a spinning maneuver, dissipating the threat. The reunion is heartwarming as Hanho embraces his friend. Now on the defensive, the weary Drake is no match for Seongwu's inexhaustible mana. Seongwu's minions swarm the boss, eventually overpowering it. Using a potent skill, Seongwu crafts bone chains that immobilize the boss. As the minions peel away the boss's exterior, a debilitated Drake is left vulnerable to Raidi's final, decisive blow. Victory is theirs. Alongside an impressive gold bounty, Seongwu earns the title Amateur Dragon Hunter, boosting his stamina and damage resistance. The town erupts in celebration. Pushing his newfound abilities, Seongwu successfully revives the defeated Drake, making it his minion. The power dynamics have shifted dramatically, and everyone recognizes Seongwu's elevated stature. Loot from the battle includes a coveted Drake leather and a legendary dragon heart. The ultimate prize, however, is the Seed of the World Tree, a god-tier artifact linked to a prophesied end. A photographer eager for a statement gets sage advice from Seongwu: trust not in groups but in one's own strength for survival. This counsel is abruptly interrupted by distant explosions and a rising plume of dark smoke reminiscent of the ominous breath of the abyss. Seongwu identifies the signature of the wandering peddlers notorious for selling the deadly substance. The prosecutor, panic-stricken, informs everyone of an assault on their base at Yongdong Post Station. Desperation evident, he pleads with Seongwu for assistance, highlighting the many non-combatants at risk. Acknowledging the gravity of the situation, Seongwu agrees to step in, setting aside his reservations for the greater good. As helicopters began their descent on the outskirts, unable to penetrate the dense smoke, Manhwa Song received troubling news from a survivor. They'd been ambushed by the beastmen. Even more alarming? These beastmen weren't just mindlessly attacking, they were communicating, their intelligence seemingly restored. Someone quickly pieced things together. A collaboration was underway between the beastmen and a group of rogue scientists. Seongwu didn't waste a moment, declaring, "I'll handle the mess inside." Recalling what the werewolf had disclosed before its death, Seongwu realized the gravity of the situation. This anti-human faction was on track to becoming humanity's biggest nightmare. Their attack timing was impeccable. The main defenses, the Liberation Guild, were off on a raid. Without hesitation, Seongwu summoned the Drake from the abyss. It was time for its grand entrance. The station, choked with the smoke from the breath of the abyss, seemed eerily quiet, save for two beastmen. One was a mocking werewolf, the other a hog beastman lamenting over the unhelpful skills he inherited from devouring an archer. Mid-discussion about using deceased scientists to concoct drugs, glowing eyes pierced through the windows. In a flash, the Bone Drake eradicated both creatures. Navigating the building, Seongwu decided that a stealthy approach would be best. He had overheard the beastmen discuss a ceremony. They were rounding up humans but hadn't killed them. With his Shadow King's cloak, he made quick work of the beastmen, relying on the element of surprise. Deep inside, a bull beast man was overseeing a collection of about 200 human players. He seemed to be under orders to capture more, assuming others were in hiding. Whispered conversations mentioned a chilling intent, extracting experience points from the captives. The ambience grew tense as red alerts echoed, warning of the activation of weakened spirit and call of death. Seongwu's undead minions surged forth, engaging the beastmen in combat. Despite their best efforts, the beastmen were overwhelmed. During the skirmish, Seongwu managed to slay a highly evolved bull beastman, earning 30,000 gold for his efforts. Realizing that beastmen like humans could evolve, Seongwu resurrected the fallen beast to bolster his ranks. His immediate concern was to evacuate the unconscious humans, lest they succumb to the toxic gas. But as he commenced the evacuation, the ground trembled ominously. An alert popped up, warning of a massive summoning spell being activated. Seongwu raced towards the site, desperate to interrupt it. On arrival, the werewolves immediately recognized him and anticipated a reward for his capture. Without hesitation, Seongwu unleashed the Grim Reaper Scythe. Its mere presence supercharged his forces. Chaos ensued. Despite their sheer numbers and determination, Seongwu's forces seemed endless, resurrecting repeatedly. In the midst of the battle, a werewolf magician initiated the summoning circle. But one of Seongwu's minions, in a valiant attempt, lunged at the magician, sending both over the edge. The building's foundation groaned, unable to bear the powerful summoning, forcing Seongwu to leap to safety. The werewolf's sinister laughter hinted at the impending danger. "You'll see soon enough." Suddenly, the structure crumbled, prompting an alert of an imminent raid boss. The prosecutor, still recovering from earlier wounds and frustrated by his overconfidence, was a mere spectator. But hope wasn't lost. Soon Manhwa and GCU spotted Seongwu's minions, returning triumphantly with rescued survivors. Their joy was palpable. Yet, as the breath of the abyss began to dissipate, another warning sounded. The massive summoning spell was once again underway. An ogre champion raid boss emerged, looming over the ruins. Mockingly, the werewolf stated that Seongwu stood no chance, especially after expending his energy on the previous boss, and they had watched it all unfold, live. Helicopters started touching down on the outskirts, hindered by the thick smoke preventing them from flying directly over. One survivor approached Manhwa Song and shared the terrifying news. They'd been ambushed by beastmen, and these creatures weren't just acting on instinct. They were communicating, strategizing. Their consciousness had seemingly returned. It became clear to Song that there was a conniving alliance between the beastmen and some mad scientists. Observing the tactics used in their surprise attack on the Yongdo Post Station, especially during the absence of the main forces of the Liberation Guild, Song noted the beastmen's cunning. Wanting to combat this new threat, Song summoned the Drake from the abyss. A grand entrance was about to take place. All around, the thick smoke emanating from the breath of the abyss blanketed the station. Two beastmen gloated about the success of their ambush. Their joy was short-lived, however, as glowing eyes appeared through the station's windows. In a swift move, Song's Bone Drake dispatched them with a single attack. Entering the building, Song noted the two beastmen's chatter about a ritual, surmising that they must be gathering hostages within the station. He opted for stealth, thinking that using his Shadow King's cloak to eliminate the beastmen silently would be more effective. Inside the station, a bull beastman was herding players into a designated area. The count had reached around 200, but the beastmen's superiors wanted even more, believing others were hidden on different floors. Their nefarious plan involved extracting experience points from these players. The atmosphere intensified when two alarms sounded, Weaken Spirit and Call of Death. Seongwu's minions emerged from the abyss, engaging in a fierce battle with the beastmen. The tide of the battle changed continuously. Despite being outnumbered, the bull beastmen defended fiercely. Yet, just as things looked bleak for Seongwu, a stealthy strike from the shadows incapacitated the bull beastman. Victory had a sweet reward, 30,000 gold for Seongwu, and a new underling as he resurrected and controlled the vanquished beastman. With the immediate threat neutralized, Seongwu and his minions began evacuating the unconscious humans, but their efforts were interrupted by a tremor. An alert flashed, warning of massive summoning magic in the vicinity. Racing to the epicenter, Seongwu confronted the beastmen, who recognized him as a high-value target. The magicians activated a summoning circle, escalating the stakes. Tensions ran high. A werewolf beastman was flung off a building, and with the summoning nearing completion, the building began to crumble. Seongwu, always one step ahead, leaped to safety just in time. His pursuit of knowledge was relentless. He demanded details about the summoned entity. The werewolf's sinister laughter was the only response, hinting at a formidable foe. The notification everyone dreaded finally appeared. A new raid boss, the Ogre Champion, was about to make its grand entrance. Watching from a distance, allies Manhwa and GCU noticed Seongwu and his minions returning with rescued survivors. Their relief was short-lived as the Ogre Champion's colossal figure loomed above. However, Seongwu was not one to be intimidated. He had a secret weapon, his Wandering Drake, which didn't hesitate to throw a solid punch at the ogre's face. The ensuing battle was intense, with Seongwu's team and the ogre trading blows. Despite the ogre's formidable strength and unique abilities, Seongwu and his team emerged victorious. The spoils of war were abundant. Seongwu leveled up and received a staggering 705,000 gold. More importantly, he gained an upgrade skill card for his Call of Death skill, improving its rank and capabilities. Reviving the Ogre Champion as a minion, Seongwu discovered a powerful artifact on him, the Thunder God Blessing Bracelet. As the dust settled, a shocking revelation came to light. The werewolf, before meeting a sudden and mysterious demise, alluded to a conspiracy involving the Yongdo Post Station and Yoido Island. Seongwu's investigative instincts kicked in. Piecing together the werewolf's fragmented memories, he discovered clues leading him to the Shindurim Station, a once bustling hub due to its central location. In a distant laboratory, a sinister scene unfolded. A mad scientist gleefully experimented on both humans and monsters. Complaints about insufficient storage for bodies and the overpowering stench of decay were met with cruel indifference. The scientist's disdain for his beastman assistant, a weremouse, was evident. Yet, in a dramatic turn of events, a dragon, another of Seongwu's minions, appeared, wreaking havoc. The facility went into emergency mode. Droid beastmen, creatures enhanced by drugs, mobilized. A synergy emerged, granting them increased strength when grouped. The stage was set for another epic confrontation. The scientist seems to be the one pulling the strings. A canine assistant murmurs about their botched Yongdo operation. Suddenly, Seongwu's party, including the Wandering Drake, bursts into view from outside the window. Recognizing the Drake from the Yado Island raid, the scientist panics and orders an immediate evacuation. As they scramble back to their lab to secure important research, the mouse assistant sniffs something familiar. Turning around, there stands Seongwu with a cheeky grin. He sarcastically thanks them for the Ogre Champion boss, saying it was a lovely gift. Seongwu takes the initiative and calls forth the very Ogre Champion alongside Righty. He chides them about their shady human experiments, but the scientist, on the defensive, claims it's all in the name of advancing science. Frustrated, Seongwu shoots the scientist in the leg. As the mouse assistant rushes to help, the scientist maliciously injects him with a mysterious serum. Before their eyes, the mouse grows to an enormous size. Quick on his feet, Seongwu uses his Shadow King ring to create a duplicate of himself. Both of them whip out crossbows, pelting the mutated mouse with bolts. In the chaos, the mouse takes a swing at Seongwu's clone, but gets crushed under the weight of the ogre champion soon after. Seongwu's reward? A cool 13,000 gold for downing an evolved rat. Turning his attention to the now one-armed scientist, Seongwu notes the scientist's foamy mouth, a sign of self-inflicted poisoning. But a quick scan reveals it's just a ruse. The scientist is only feigning death. Enraged, Seongwu delivers a crushing blow to the scientist's sensitive area. Magically, the dead scientist is now very much alive and in agony. Desperate, he pleads allegiance to Seongwu in exchange for mercy. But Seongwu's patience has run thin, and he ends the scientist's charade with a swift stab. After reviving the scientist, Seongwu dives into the man's memories. In a past scene, a shadowy figure appoints the scientist in charge of a special project. This man, leader of the traveling peddlers, tasks him with producing a noxious gas for a sinister plan involving Yongdo. The scientist happily recalls his expertise in such areas. This revelation shakes Seongwu. They captured 3 raid bosses. The mysterious man warns the scientist about the vital role of the beastmen and mentions 4 particularly powerful beasts, surpassing even top-ranked players. The rapid rise of the beastmen, Seongwu concludes, must be due to unique quests and specialized scientific aid. The ultimate aim? Not to oust the players, but a more nefarious goal. The scientist ecstatically mentions his dream of evolving into a transcendent, a term Seongwu ponders might be linked to a personal quest. A white werewolf then struts in, expressing irritation at being left out of the conversation. Seongwu recognizes him from an earlier vision. The werewolf clarifies he's not a mage just because he wields a cane. Suddenly, he uses an ability on the scientist, describing it as a precautionary measure. Then, the setting morphs. Seongwu finds himself in a void, facing the white werewolf. The werewolf acknowledges Seongwu's unique memory-reading ability and is curious about how he discovered their Shindorian base. Their conversation hints at the complexity of their situation. The werewolf cryptically drops the term evolution society and warns Seongwu of an impending doom for humanity. Snapped out of the vision, Seongwu realizes he's dealing with a formidable foe with psychometric abilities. Given the intel about the 3 raid bosses, they need to stay vigilant. Righty excitedly shows Seongwu a subway map he recently stumbled upon. 3 locations shine brightly on it: Yoido Island, marked with an A but crossed off, So-Sadong in Bukhan, labeled B, and Anyang, designated with a C. Seongwu recalls having bested the Drake before its capture and having sent the Ogre champion packing. This means there's just one more big boss to tackle, and another Evolution Society branch lurking somewhere. Meanwhile, the bustle and hum of rebuilding activity fill Yongdong Post Station. Seongwu, ever the strategist, delegates a task to Manahwa Song: gather intel on any raid bosses in Bucheon and Anyang. As for the rest, Seongwu plans a sit-down with the prosecutor. The information he shares is unnerving. Another assault is brewing in Yongdong-po. The assailants? They're named the Evolution Society, and Seongwu has a nagging hunch they're the same corrupted ones from the Yoido Island raid. The prosecutor's face darkens. This isn't just a guild skirmish. Humanity's fate hangs in the balance. He earnestly appeals to Seongwu to be their bulwark, to protect Yongdong-po. In exchange for Seongwu's services against the Evolution Society, there's a shiny reward of over 1 million gold. Seongwu, while intent on eliminating the Evolution Society anyway, doesn't mind the added incentive. Post-discussion, Seongwu steps out to find his comrades mingling well with other leaders. But Hanho whispers a word of caution. These leaders, trying to curry favor with Jisoo, are not genuine. A sudden ping on Hanho's community app indicates a reshuffling of rankings. The prosecutor's star is dimming, while Doctor is ascending, now 3rd and boasting a level of 15. Seongwu ponders, could Doctor be that shadowy figure from his flashback? Hitting level 15 generally marks a player's first awakening, and Seongwu wonders about Doctor's transformation. A commotion breaks out. Manhwa Song lies sprawled, having unwisely opened a jar Seongwu's minions had. Inside, the potent breath of the abyss crafted by that notorious scientist. Seongwu cautions Manhwa against being too nosy and learns from the Liberation Guild that they've tasked Manhwa as his assistant. Seongwu's crew is certain it's a demotion. As they navigate towards the Liberation Guild's info hub, Hanho shares a juicy tidbit. When Seongwu had fallen, Jisoo was heartbroken. Jisoo's continued ribbing on the subject has left Jisoo scornful of him. In a different part of the station, the prosecutor is ruminating, regret weighing heavily. He botched the boss raid, and public sentiment against him is icy. His fan base is dwindling, with many flocking to Seongwu and Righty's banners. He eyes an exclusive quest he's acquired: train 30 Crusaders to level 10, earn his first awakening. But with 6 fallen Crusaders and only 14 remaining, the math is troubling. Yet, seeing Seongwu's rise, the prosecutor refuses to buckle. He calls in his guild, outlining an ambitious plan: start hunting ASAP. Manhwa Song and the Crusaders push back, pointing to the rebuilding needed. But the prosecutor is firm, stressing self-reliance, especially as they have Korea's mightiest guild. The future? It's anyone's game. Meanwhile, Manhwa Song links Seongwu's crew with their Bucheon and Bonga Station informant. The man shares unsettling news. Though an ogre champion boss raid was in Sosadong, its whereabouts became uncertain once the second chapter began. Bonga Station, meanwhile, remains an enigma, likely overrun by ominous black fog and zombies. Seongwu's educated guess? Hanho's insatiable thirst for phone intel. He reassures everyone, having already alerted Tisong to stick to safety. So get this, there's a buzz going around about the bomb gas station. The word is, don't even think about going near it. Why? It's oozing with this freaky toxic gas, and oh yeah, zombies everywhere. Seongwu's got a hunch that this Evolution Society crowd might have another lab in there. And that spine-chilling black fog? He thinks it might be the notorious breath of the abyss. Seongwu then nudges Manhwa Song, trying to borrow a chopper. Meanwhile, at the bomb gas station, some desperate players are legging it from a zombie horde just inches from their hideout. Their pals up ahead start laying down cover fire. It's like a scene from a movie. They know they're the only thing keeping those brain munchers away from the last shelter. But then, panic. Zombies are gaining ground fast. The players on the barricade are freaking out. So 2 survivors think fast and decide to play decoy, hoping to steer the zombies away. Just as they're about to be zombie lunch, who swoops in? Jisoo, obliterating a chunk of them with one fiery move. And not a moment too late, Seongwu storms in with his ogre champion, literally punching zombies into oblivion. And to spice things up, some keen-eyed players notice that these aren't just regular old skeletons. They belong to the second-ranked Necromancer. Big deal, right? Flashback time. Players are on tenterhooks waiting for Seongwu. Hanho finally shows, but his folks seem more worried about Seongwu and Jisoo. Hanho tries to assure everyone that Seongwu dispatched him to protect the town from big bads. But the vibe? Everyone's convinced he got the boot. To prove his worth, Hanho unveils his surprise, a bag with Righty kidnapped inside. But plot twist, as soon as Righty's free, he starts vanishing. Outside a room, kids are buzzing with excitement. Rumor has it, the famous Necromancer, the beacon of justice and truth, is inside. Jisoo's got some splatters of blood on her face. Seongwu nudges her to clean up, and there's this weird tension. Despite the crazy adventures, they've never really had heart-to-hearts. Then An Minsuk, the survivor group's leader, interrupts the moment. He's super grateful, but then drops a bomb. He wants them gone by midnight. But why? It turns out there's this regional quest. Step out, and a zombie mob will chase you down. And since half their group consists of kids and elderly, it's a no-go. A few tried to help but bolted once they got the full picture. However, deep down, Minsuk's hoping for a hero. Seongwu steps up, promising to save them. As night falls, the atmosphere grows super tense. An eerie quest called The City Where Death Has Arrived pops up. It's a game of survival, and the stakes? Higher than ever. Then, an alert. Because of a high-level player in the region, the difficulty just shot up. Zombies aren't just lurking outside now, they're coming in. Seongwu's thinking the system's just toying with them, but he's still determined. Minsuk's idea? Get the non-combat folks to the rooftop. But they've got another problem. Ghouls. Not just regular zombies, but the top-tier, flesh-craving monsters. As Minsuk's kids fear the worst, He assures them that with the Necromancer around, they got a fighting chance. Players suddenly saw zombies gathering right outside their hideout, which prompted them into action. Hustling, they fortified the main entrance with barricades. There was no space for someone to summon their larger skeletal defenders in such a confined area. Seongwu, seeing the potential disaster of fighting in such tight quarters, urged everyone to evacuate the space. Seongwu wished he could just use his corpse explosion skill to clear a path, but there wasn't enough room. In response, Seongwu called upon his Weary Beast minions, equipping them with bone shields, creating a powerful defense synergy. Their shields effectively blocked the advancing zombies. Minsuk, showing off his combat prowess, used the pressure of valor to bash a zombie, then executed his tornado blade skill, slashing through several undead. Impressed, someone mused that Minsuk must hold the rank of a 3rd or 4th class knight. When the number of zombies grew, Seongwu decided to test a strategy. He ordered his shield minions to pull back and then tried to explode the zombie corpses. The resulting blast was massive, and Seongwu realized he had to be cautious. The entire building could be destroyed, and they still had children inside. To fend off the growing horde, Seongwu, without hesitation, exited the building and conjured his Drake and Righty, releasing a weakened spirit aura in the vicinity. As the two beasts began clearing the area, Seongwu instructed Minsuk to help evacuate those on the rooftops. Minsuk relayed that 2 buses were waiting in the underground parking lot for this purpose. As they strategized, one of Seongwu's minions fell, overwhelmed by zombies. Seongwu knew he had a few powerful abilities like Call of Death and Grim Reaper's Scythe in reserve, but deploying them prematurely could spell disaster. Suddenly, Jisoo sprang into action, her blade slicing through zombies, aided by a potion-coated purification mask. As the buses pulled up to evacuate survivors, grim news came. Ghouls, more formidable than zombies, were approaching, drawn by the scent of the living. Minsuk recounted a haunting tale where ghouls attacked his car, snatching his youngest son away. The convoy, with the buses at its heart, began to move, setting their destination as the Bond gas station. The eerie silence during the journey was broken when they stumbled upon a decimated refugee camp. On high alert, a player's head was suddenly severed. Ghouls were amidst them. These creatures were faster than Seongwu had estimated. Only Jisoo could match their pace. When a horde of zombies led by ghouls was spotted, tension gripped the players. Minsuk, seeking clarity, questioned Seongwu about the consciousness of reanimated skeletons. Seongwu, understanding the dark implication, reassured him that they would never reach such a desperate point. The battles intensified. Ghouls were quick, dodging arrows and spells. Minsuk used a holy skill to fend off a ghoul, but another snuck up on him. However, Minsuk's swift defense thwarted the ghoul's attack. During this chaos, Seongwu unleashed his Grim Reaper's Scythe, allowing him to continuously revive fallen minions for an hour. As the battle raged, Seongwu received a notification. The ghouls he revived no longer obeyed their previous master, aligning with him instead. Inspired, Minsuk continued to fight fiercely. Seongwu marveled at his abilities, considering him as skilled as the prosecutor. However, the odds remained overwhelming. Only Jisoo, Seongwu, and Minsuk were effectively repelling the ghouls, while lower-ranked players faced peril. Their trusty Drake and Ogre champion tackled the slower zombies, but were no match for the speed ghouls. Driven by the determination to protect their families, the players steeled themselves for an ongoing battle. The danger escalated when a ghoul reached the bus gates. A minion tried to halt it but was thrown aside, and an elderly man's brave attempt to intervene ended tragically. The battle's intensity continued to mount. Amidst the chaos, Minsuk attempts to deploy his ranged skill. Unfortunately, it's still recharging, so he charges straight at the ghoul, sword drawn. But their collision sends them both tumbling off a bridge. As Seongwu hurries to aid him, it's clear that Minsuk is in a dire state. Before Seongwu can fetch a potion, Minsuk stops him, knowing well that a mere potion won't be enough to save him. With his dying breath, Minsuk urges Seongwu to use his body as a shield to protect the children. Suddenly, Seongwu receives a unique quest notification. The system offers him the chance to resurrect Minsuk as a skeletal knight. By ensuring the safety of Minsuk's family, Seongwu could gain his undying loyalty. This reminds Seongwu of a distressingly similar quest he once got after a professor's demise back on campus. Left with little choice, he opts to bring Minsuk back from the dead. Meanwhile, Minsuk finds himself in a void-like space, pondering if he's in the afterlife. A Grim Reaper appears, clarifying he's not truly in the afterlife, but he is indeed deceased. As his body begins undergoing a transformation, the Reaper explains that Seongwu is turning him into an undead being. But when the Reaper mentions Minsuk's impending memory wipe, Minsuk pleads with the Reaper to retain them. He's resolute on being the protector of his family, even in death. Back in reality, Seongwu receives confirmation of a contract with a Death Knight, ensuring that Minsuk's memories are preserved. Communicating with the newly resurrected Minsuk, it's clear that he's unlike any undead Seongwu has ever encountered. With the immediate threat still looming, they race back into the fray. With her ignition sword, Jisoo skillfully cuts down attacking ghouls. Even as she tries to save players overwhelmed by the ghouls, they plead with her to prioritize the bus's passengers. In a stunning moment, a ghoul that infiltrates the bus meets its end at the hands of the newly turned Death Knight Minsuk. With the power of a masterless sword gifted by Seongwu, the Death Knight shows his might, quickly clearing the area of threats. Taking a moment to assess, Seongwu observes the Death Knight's stats, noting his high rank and 2 special skills. As they regroup, Jisoo, curious about the Death Knight's origin, is promised an explanation later. They know they can't rest for long, as their final destination, Bonga Station, awaits them. As the group approaches the station, a thick mist envelops them, weakening the humans in the party. Yet, Seongwu, unaffected, boldly leads his undead minions into the station. The entrance is draped in sheets, and a government-issued notice warns that it's a containment testing zone, hinting at a possible connection between the Evolution Society and government officials. Unfazed, they venture deeper inside. Their entry, however, comes with a startling discovery. A raid boss monster, the Ghoul King, appears before them, shockingly already bound and dismembered. And just when they thought it couldn't get any worse, an abyssal rift emerges, releasing a continuous horde of zombies. From behind, a scientist approached Seongwu. "We released the gas after the quest updated," he admitted, "but we never expected someone to willingly walk inside like you did." The man introduced himself as a doctor and offered Seongwu a proposal. "I've been studying death, specifically the energy of the abyss that contradicts all life forms," he began. The doctor, along with his team, saw the current chaos as a trial of human evolution. To pass this test, they believed in discarding their human shell and transcending beyond it. "The Ghoul King we captured provided heaps of information," he continued, "and now, a necromancer linked to death stands before us. You might think this is all a chance encounter, but in reality, it's all orchestrated by this game's system." Minsuk wondered if the doctor had encountered the prophecy stone, leading to his beliefs about the game's conclusion. However, when the doctor extended an invitation for Minsuk to join their cause, Seongwu was far from convinced. "You and your lot spread a toxic gas and experiment on humans. How can you claim to be working towards a greater purpose?" The doctor called for Minsuk, concluding that rational discourse with Seongwu was futile. As Minsuk made his presence known, Seongwu commanded his minions to strike first. Yet Minsuk and his allies unleashed a divine skill on Seongwu's minions, diminishing their strength by a significant 60%. Seongwu recognized this power. It was the same type that Manhwa possessed. They were priests. Suddenly, an electric field stopped Seongwu's arrows mid-flight. A female player was responsible, reflecting the arrows back at Seongwu. Though he managed to defend himself with a bone shield, he realized she wielded psychic powers. As the Death Knight made his way towards Songkuk and his allies, a skill named Holy Pressure flung him into a room. Concerned for the Death Knight's well-being, Seongwu's attention was caught by the female player warning her group about her treasured experimental tanks housed in that room. Inside, the Death Knight, Minsuk, surveyed the tanks and was seething with rage when he saw a child's shoe inside one of them. As a counterattack was being mounted against Seongwu, a chain lashed out, dragging one of the enemy players to the Death Knight. After vanquishing him using Exploit Life, the strength of Seongwu's remaining minions grew. This boost of power was a game-changer for them, especially after Death Knight, in his fury upon recognizing his son Hyunjin's shoe in a tank, dispatched the psychic female player in a single slash. Amidst the ongoing conflict, the doctor applauded sarcastically, revealing that he was a non-combatant and relied on tricks. He launched an item that electrocuted Seongwu's ghouls. Soon after, vines sprung from the same item, ensnaring both the Death Knight and Raidi. Seongwu, keen to finish this game, summoned the Grim Reaper Scythe. In response, the doctor deployed a flash grenade filled with a magical mist to make his escape. When the number of zombies grew, Seongwu decided to test a strategy. He ordered his shield minions to pull back and then tried to explode the zombie corpses. The resulting blast was massive, and Seongwu realized he had to be cautious. The entire building could be destroyed, and they still had children inside. To fend off the growing horde, Seongwu, without hesitation, exited the building and conjured his Drake and Righty, releasing a weakened spirit aura in the vicinity. As the two beasts began clearing the area, Seongwu instructed Minsuk to help evacuate those on the rooftops. Minsuk relayed that 2 buses were waiting in the underground parking lot for this purpose. As they strategized, one of Seongwu's minions fell, overwhelmed by zombies. Seongwu knew he had a few powerful abilities like Call of Death and Grim Reaper's Scythe in reserve, but deploying them prematurely could spell disaster. Suddenly, Jisoo sprang into action, her blade slicing through zombies, aided by a potion-coated purification mask. As the buses pulled up to evacuate survivors, grim news came. Ghouls, more formidable than zombies, were approaching, drawn by the scent of the living. Minsuk recounted a haunting tale where ghouls attacked his car, snatching his youngest son away. The convoy, with the buses at its heart, began to move, setting their destination as the Bond gas station. The eerie silence during the journey was broken when they stumbled upon a decimated refugee camp. On high alert, a player's head was suddenly severed. Ghouls were amidst them. These creatures were faster than Seongwu had estimated. Only Jisoo could match their pace. When a horde of zombies led by ghouls was spotted, tension gripped the players. Minsuk, seeking clarity, questioned Seongwu about the consciousness of reanimated skeletons. Seongwu, understanding the dark implication, reassured him that they would never reach such a desperate point. The battles intensified. Ghouls were quick, dodging arrows and spells. Minsuk used a holy skill to fend off a ghoul, but another snuck up on him. However, Minsuk's swift defense thwarted the ghoul's attack. During this chaos, Seongwu unleashed his Grim Reaper's Scythe, allowing him to continuously revive fallen minions for an hour. As the battle raged, Seongwu received a notification. The ghouls he revived no longer obeyed their previous master, aligning with him instead. Inspired, Minsuk continued to fight fiercely. Seongwu marveled at his abilities, considering him as skilled as the prosecutor. However, the odds remained overwhelming. Only Jisoo, Seongwu, and Minsuk were effectively repelling the ghouls, while lower-ranked players faced peril. Their trusty Drake and Ogre Champion tackled the slower zombies, but were no match for the speed ghouls. Driven by the determination to protect their families, the players steeled themselves for an ongoing battle. The danger escalated when a ghoul reached the bus gates. A minion tried to halt it but was thrown aside, and an elderly man's brave attempt to intervene ended tragically. The battle's intensity continued to mount. Amidst the chaos, Minsuk attempts to deploy his ranged skill. Unfortunately, it's still recharging, so he charges straight at the ghoul, sword drawn. But their collision sends them both tumbling off a bridge. As Seongwu hurries to aid him, it's clear that Minsuk is in a dire state. Before Seongwu can fetch a potion, Minsuk stops him, knowing well that a mere potion won't be enough to save him. With his dying breath, Minsuk urges Seongwu to use his body as a shield to protect the children. Suddenly, Seongwu receives a unique quest notification. The system offers him the chance to resurrect Minsuk as a skeletal knight. By ensuring the safety of Minsuk's family, Seongwu could gain his undying loyalty. This reminds Seongwu of a distressingly similar quest he once got after a professor's demise back on campus. Left with little choice, he opts to bring Minsuk back from the dead. Meanwhile, Minsuk finds himself in a void-like space, pondering if he's in the afterlife. A Grim Reaper appears, clarifying he's not truly in the afterlife, but he is indeed deceased. As his body begins undergoing a transformation, the Reaper explains that Seongwu is turning him into an undead being. But when the Reaper mentions Minsuk's impending memory wipe, Minsuk pleads with the Reaper to retain them. He's resolute on being the protector of his family, even in death. Back in reality, Seongwu receives confirmation of a contract with a Death Knight, ensuring that Minsuk's memories are preserved. Communicating with the newly resurrected Minsuk, it's clear that he's unlike any undead Seongwu has ever encountered. With the immediate threat still looming, they race back into the fray. With her ignition sword, Jisoo skillfully cuts down attacking ghouls. Even as she tries to save players overwhelmed by the ghouls, they plead with her to prioritize the bus's passengers. In a stunning moment, a ghoul that infiltrates the bus meets its end at the hands of the newly turned Death Knight Minsuk. With the power of a masterless sword gifted by Seongwu, the Death Knight shows his might, quickly clearing the area of threats. Taking a moment to assess, Seongwu observes the Death Knight's stats, noting his high rank and 2 special skills. As they regroup, Jisoo, curious about the Death Knight's origin, is promised an explanation later. They know they can't rest for long, as their final destination, Bonga Station, awaits them. As the group approaches the station, a thick mist envelops them, weakening the humans in the party. Yet, Seongwu, unaffected, boldly leads his undead minions into the station. The entrance is draped in sheets, and a government-issued notice warns that it's a containment testing zone, hinting at a possible connection between the Evolution Society and government officials. Unfazed, they venture deeper inside. Their entry, however, comes with a startling discovery. A raid boss monster, the Ghoul King, appears before them, shockingly already bound and dismembered. And just when they thought it couldn't get any worse, an abyssal rift emerges, releasing a continuous horde of zombies. From behind, a scientist approached Seongwu. "We released the gas after the quest updated," he admitted, "but we never expected someone to willingly walk inside like you did." The man introduced himself as a doctor and offered Seongwu a proposal. "I've been studying death, specifically the energy of the abyss that contradicts all life forms," he began. The doctor, along with his team, saw the current chaos as a trial of human evolution. To pass this test, they believed in discarding their human shell and transcending beyond it. "The Ghoul King we captured provided heaps of information," he continued, "and now, a necromancer linked to death stands before us.